Hey everybody, welcome to the Gin and Tonic show, another off-the-cuff show here, as I'm calling it at the moment, where we've just decided on a topic. Some of us are available to have a chat, so if you're watching this as a recording, since nobody's viewing it yet, welcome. Talk about this evening is, should women be modestly dressed, in inverted commas, as Islam suggests? And the reason I brought this topic up, because I was in another hangout, I was invited to another hangout, and I had a conversation with a group of people, and there was one particularly, I would say, rather stubborn Muslim who suggested that his claim was that women who are more modestly dressed are better loved or better looked upon by men in a positive way than women who are scantily dressed. He did jump to naked at one point. He jumped around a fair amount. But his main claim was, across all cultures, across the entire planet, women, if they're more modestly dressed, are treated better, or more loved, or looked upon more positively than women who are scantily clad or naked. This was that that's what he's seen in his immediate surrounding. And he provided one video which showed a religious service as it happened, where some Africans were performing whatever they were performing. I couldn't quite see it that very clearly. He proceeded to say that he's using logic and creating a deductive argument, which is, hey, my experience tells me that every woman that I've ever interacted with has been more loved or felt better or been more positively approached by men if she's modestly dressed than if she's scantily dressed or naked. On the panel themselves, some of them from Africa, suggested, no, but hey, I'm in Africa. There, in many of the tribes there, women are half naked or fully naked or whatever the case is, and they are not less loved or looked upon in any negative way. So you cannot make a claim that across the entire world, all women are seen as being or not loved as much or not seen as positively. His claim was, hey, I can't just take your word for it. You need to provide me with the evidence. I attempted to point out to this gentleman that making a big universal claim like that, almost like a supernatural claim, but not quite, stating that every culture across the world is like this because he's experienced it firsthand in Philadelphia and he's seen one video on YouTube, was not evidence that all women would or are treated worse if they are more scantily clothed. He wouldn't have this. He kept trying to use an analogy, which is, hey, do you know if there's, the fact that we don't know any pigs don't fly, can you say for certain that a pig doesn't fly? Wildly faulty reasoning, but he was very, very adamant and stubborn that because we couldn't say for sure that a pig couldn't fly, that was the same as his argument, making a positive claim that all women across the globe are therefore better seen, better approached, more loved if they are wearing modest clothes. And eventually I got to the point where I couldn't continue any further with this gentleman. It felt to me like he was very stubborn. He just thought that I was refuting myself every time I pointed out the difference between an inductive argument that we would make in a negative way and the positive one that he was making. So he was making a positive claim about all women. The claim about pigs, I was not saying that there is in fact a pig that can fly. And so there was this disconnect which he really couldn't grasp. Even when I tried to explain the difference between inductive and deductive arguments, I just said, thanks very much, you win, you just too good for me, your logic has refuted mine. Eventually just got to get to that point. I'm sure Stops would have been able to argue all night with him. I just got very tedious here. It was just speaking to somebody whom I felt did not understand the difficulty of the argument that he was presenting. So I've got with me at the moment Stops, Stop Spamming, and Marshall. So I'd love to hear what you guys think in relation to that particular example, and then maybe we can talk about it more broadly, more generally, and related to Islam, because or religion for that matter, because my belief is that conditioning and is brought about by religion. And if you look at cultures where there isn't the Abrahamic religions, women, it's quite normal for women to walk around half or fully naked. The men don't see them any differently. That's completely natural. That's the way we were born. That's our natural state. And we are socially conditioned, oftentimes, not exclusively, but oftentimes by religion. And therefore, in this country, even Western countries, and of course in many of the other countries where religion holds sway, it's seen that it's somehow bad, wrong, negative for women to be either scantily clad or naked. I'm going to open this up and we can have a chat about this. So, gentlemen, your thoughts?
Marshall, go. Do you want? No. Okay. Well, for me, it's very easy. I would have just
yourself closer. Stops. You're a bit soft, so just bring your mic a bit closer.
Sorry, this is a different headset.
There we go.
The issue is very easy. I would have slapped him across the face and called him a male chauvinist pig, because what he is doing is he is offering his view, his limited. Okay, I'm not going to. It's horrible. Okay, his views and his sexist opinion, and this is all he has to offer. He does not. He sees women as objects. He doesn't see them as personalities. He sees them only as a physical body, as an object that he can use and abuse as he wants. He doesn't understand. I would have simply told him, well, in my experience, all women in all cultures are quite happy if they are completely naked when they are being respected by a man. A man should not even see if a woman is naked if he's having a conversation with her. Then the eyes are up there. If you're having a sex talk, if you're flirting, if you're doing other things, then it's completely different. But the thing is, I have had long discussions on the nudist beach, with women. So I respect them the same way as I do anybody else, and it wouldn't have mattered whether she was sitting in a cafe with me fully dressed. I would, however, have disrespected her if she sees a necessity to cover herself up from head to toe, where I cannot see the face, because for me the most important thing I want to see in a woman is the face, the head, and what Muslims are doing are covering the neck and the head and everything, and that is, I think, is the worst thing that you can do. So yes, I would have told him that he is the one who is trying to dominate the women, and he is projecting his insecurity onto others just because he can't handle it.
Yes, and just an amusing comment as a side note, somebody in the chat, Allied Atheist Alliance, anyone who says pigs can't fly hasn't been chased by a police helicopter.
Hasn't seen what? A Lynx helicopter?
Who says pigs can't fly hasn't been chased by a police helicopter. Rather crude but funny.
Oh shit, that is so true.
This is like, okay. Here's the thing. It's I think when a woman dresses in a naked way, it's not about, because if like imagine this, like if a woman decided to dress in a very sexual way, then that's a decision. But is that decision made for a particular purpose? For example, if a woman is dressing in a very naked way, then it's done for a purpose, like for example, to look as a sexy, or to like to play with the man's desires and to make him want to chase her more. So dress in a very modest way, because we have morals. We're not animals. Why don't we respect ourselves and make our women dress in a way that is respectful, and not like, because what separates us from animals, it's our brain, because we got a brain and we got to use it to make decisions. So if a woman dresses in a very sexual way, then that is a decision made for a particular purpose, and the purpose is, and think she's the most beautiful woman, and that's not morally acceptable.
Sorry, what's not morally acceptable? I don't understand.
Dressing in a very sexual way or being naked.
Is that not morally acceptable?
Yes, it's not. For me, it's not.
Why though? Why?
Because we got two choices: either to dress in a very modest way or dress in a very naked way.
What is modest?
Which one of these is morally fine or acceptable?
Anything. It's exactly as Rob pointed out. We are born naked.
But we have two. No, but you have to. We got two choices. If you made the choice
No, Marshall. Why do we have two choices? We have an endless, infinite amount of choices.
Which are?
Anything from naked to fully covered.
No, okay, let me look. We're talking about women. We're not talking about us. I'm saying if a woman decides to wear in a very sexual way, particular purpose, do you agree?
No, totally not.
Oh, really? So when your women dresses way, isn't that done to impress you and make you look like trying to make you look more about her and care about her more?
Is that what you do?
No, I'm asking you.
And I'm asking you if you do exactly that. Do you
We're,
go and
we're,
dress in a way to
no,
provoke
I'm
someone,
talking.
to look
We're,
nice
we're
or
talking.
something? Do you do that?
We're talking about women. We're not talking about men.
I'm talking about what is it? Why is there a difference in the way that how a woman dresses and the way that you dress?
You go and read the title. It says, "Should women dress modestly?"
And I am making the point that if a man has the right to dress how he wants, I
But we
think a
are
woman
not
should have the
talking.
same right. I don't
Can
think
we?
that you can put morality into this in the way that somebody dresses. It
No,
is your
it's.
personal perception of
But what
this,
I'm
how you
saying,
interpret
no,
this.
what I'm saying, yeah, when a woman dresses in a way that is impressive, that is done for a particular reason. It's not done just like that.
No,
So
you are
Marshall,
projecting.
Marshall, if I can check. So for you, it's important what the woman's intention is.
Mhm.
Dresses. Is that what you're saying? If she dresses, let's say, in a bikini, because she just wants to get a suntan and she loves to feel the wind on her skin, is that okay in
Yeah,
public? Is
it's
it
not
okay in public?
it's not fine to me, but I believe
Why not? Why
okay,
not though?
because out of morality we got principles, we got morals, yeah. So what is, I mean, if she's wearing that way, what made her dress that way? Is it because she wants to, or because she wants
I've just
to
told
be?
you.
How do you know what she wants?
What did I just say?
I'm saying, what is the reason that pushed her to wear that way?
I'll repeat it because you didn't hear it or you've just completely forgotten. So a woman goes out and wears a bikini and she says, you know what? I want to get a suntan. I want the sun to hit my body. I love to feel the fresh breeze. I just want to wear a bikini and I've got a nice figure and I want to enjoy myself outdoors.
Hmm. So is that the reason? I mean,
That's the reason. I'm giving you the example. Is that okay?
okay, yes, it's fine. For me, yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so that same woman gets into a bikini and says, hey, I'm going outside because I want men to stare at me. Is that okay?
Then that's the different thing. I mean, you see, that's
Is it moral or is it not moral? You said the first one was fine, or
let us
you
not use.
tried the first
Okay, let's not use the word moral and say, for me, that's not fine. Why? You want to know why?
one. It's just your subjective opinion, so I can dismiss that unless you've got reasons that we
Okay,
can evaluate.
yes, that's my subjective view. You're right.
Okay, but then I can
So,
just say, so what,
wait,
Marshall?
but
I
hold on,
don't
hold
see
on,
an
hold on.
argument.
But do you? Okay, but Rob, do you agree that we got principles?
We have come about. We've built principles, if you
Okay,
want to call the word principles.
but no, no. What?
What
Here's
about
the
that?
question. We are as a human, yeah, and we got other beings like animals, right? If we're gonna
No.
make it, no, no, hold on. If we're gonna make a comparison and compare these two entities or beings, what separates us? Because an animal, if you put him in a particular space, he could dress nakedly and he would have no problem. But if you put a person, like for example, in an empty room, and you put him naked and you came and you want to talk to him, he would not allow it. He would feel ashamed. He would try to protect. You get what I'm saying?
Why? Why,
Because
Marshall?
that's the thing. We are born with we got
Conditioning.
morality. We got principles. We're not as the same as other beings, as other animals.
Do you realize that there's tribes out there, and I would suggest in this
Yeah, I know.
particular case they are
In
more
Africa,
advanced than
yeah.
us across the
Yes, in
world, not just
Africa.
in Africa, in Australia, in South America, the Red Indians, you name
In
it,
India,
anywhere
right.
where Western religion hasn't actually penetrated deeply, where they do walk around naked or semi-naked. Is it wrong for them?
Well,
Why?
it's then the problem, then the issue of culture, yeah, because those people, they were raised in a particular different culture as the culture we are in today. You were born in a desert, you would not be the Rob that we know today. You would be totally different. You could be eating like
What's that got to do with the question I asked you?
I'm saying it's a culture. It's a problem of culture.
So are you suggesting that our culture or your culture is better than the Red Indians or the Aborigines or the people in the Amazonian who dress naked? If you are suggesting our culture is better in that way, tell me how. Back it up with evidence apart from your opinion. Otherwise, I just dismiss your opinion.
Firstly, I never said that our culture is superior or better than other cultures. What I said to you is, imagine you were living with a group of people in Africa, yeah, and those people, they have no idea what are clothes, what are food. They live in according to nature. Nature is their mother. Nature is their priority. Do you think you could be dressing in that particular situation?
Yes, if I was going to fit in with them and I wanted to be in their culture, then I would quote dress or undress like them.
No, but I'm saying you have no idea about what clothes are. You don't know. You don't even know what is a laptop, what is clothes, what is food, what is whatever.
The point.
No, what I'm saying, would you be able to dress in a way that is sexual or in a way that is acceptable? If you have no idea,
me as the person sitting here, or are you talking about somebody that's in that culture?
I'm saying you just imagine yourself if you were brought in that particular culture.
In that culture.
Yes.
Yes. What about it?
Would you be able to choose? I'm not talking about you. I'm just giving you an example. Yeah. To decide to wear in a sexual way or in a modest way. If you were brought in a culture that that has no idea, they are like they are not they have.
You're babbling a bit,
modest. Then would you do that?
What?
I'm asking you. Don't you get my question?
Marshall, you're not making much sense, to be quite honest.
No, I'm asking you a question.
You're trying to create a scenario. I understand that you're trying to create a scenario which will then make your point. But the scenario that you're creating is totally well, I can't understand it. What you are saying is if somebody has a different culture, well, of course they're going to dress differently. Can I adapt to their culture? Yes, of course I can adapt to their culture. For me, there is no thing as dressing sexually or dressing modestly. I don't have that in my vocabulary. Like I saw in the chat just now, I find that despicable and vile. If somebody suggests that if a woman dresses seductively, she's asking for trouble. This is totally wrong.
No,
we should look at personalities and not the way that somebody dresses. What you are saying, if somebody wants to dress seductively, then we should treat her as though she were trying to seduce us, and I think that is totally wrong.
So what I'm
you can't do that. It doesn't matter how somebody dresses. You look at the personality and you treat them according to what it is, how you would respond to them wearing different clothes. Stop. What you are doing is you are classifying somebody according to the way that they dress, which I think you can't do.
No, stop. I never said I can judge someone upon his clothing. I never said that.
But this is what you're saying.
No,
Marshall, you're using modest and sexually as classification of clothes.
What I was trying to get to, Rob, is it's a matter of culture. My culture was the reason why I dress the way I am now. And
okay, yes, we all agree on that. Yes, we are all born naked. We all start off the same way, and then culture dictates how we perceive dress. Some cultures say you don't need it, some cultures say you need a little, and some cultures say you need a lot. Absolutely. So if you are born into that culture, you behave according to that culture. If you join the culture, you adapt. You just need to be tolerant. But
did I say But did I say that I can just, if someone is wearing in a very bad or sexual, whatever you want to call it, do you
Why
think
is it bad? What do
okay,
you
no,
mean
no,
bad and sexual?
I'm not, okay, you call it whatever you like. Do you think I'm going to judge him upon his clothing? Of course
Yes.
not. No, I will never
You
do that.
just did. You just said bad
How?
and sexual.
Okay, I meant bad in a different sense, like in a sexual way, in a sexy
And
way. Okay, is that a good word?
I don't
What's the
understand
point?
what it is.
How am I gonna judge him? It doesn't make sense. I can never judge someone upon his actions or upon his clothing. That makes no sense.
Look,
Well, of
you,
course we
you
do.
go
We
out in
judge
the
all the time.
evening and you meet a girl
How,
and she's got a very low cut dress and she's got half her boob sticking out. She's wearing a mini dress, long heels,
yes.
high heels. Okay, now what? What is
Do
your
you,
reaction?
okay, okay, that's a good question. That's a good question. Do you think then in that particular situation, I would say to you, look at that woman, she's a bad person? Of course not. What I would say, my question at that particular place would be why that women wears this that way. This is my question. Why? I want to know why. What made her? What pushed her to wear in that particular?
O- Okay, next to her is a woman in a maxi skirt. Now what?
But do you get what I'm saying?
No.
No, no, what I'm saying, yeah. I will never judge someone upon his clothing. That makes no fucking sense. Okay?
But that's what you're doing
No.
constantly in the last couple of minutes that we've been talking about that.
What I'm
That's
saying, no,
exactly
no,
what I
no,
said. If you
please
have
don't.
two girls and one is dressed in a mini skirt and a see-through blouse, and her friend who's standing next to her is wearing a long maxi skirt.
Hmm.
Okay, what is your opinion?
Okay, what do you mean? What do you mean about my opinion? You mean my opinion about them, about their personalities, about their? What do you mean
No, what is
exactly?
your reaction if you're sitting at a table, or you're standing at the bar, or I don't know what, and suddenly two
Hmm.
girls walk in, one in a mini skirt and one in a maxi skirt?
Hmm.
What is your reaction?
My reaction would be fine. Would I would I can, but I cannot build just because I watch them dressing that way. How can I make a view about someone if I have just seen him the first time?
I don't know. You sound totally different to what you were saying just a few seconds ago.
No, 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 no. What I said, I can never make a decision or a judgment just because someone dresses in a particular manner.
Okay, great. Now, you see these two girls, one in a mini skirt, one in a maxi skirt.
Hmm.
Do you see them in any different way?
No, but my question, what did I say? What did I say in the first? I said
You said, why is
what
she dressed like
no, no,
that?
I would ask in that particular place is what pushed to wear in that way, because
And Rob
it
answered
must
that
have a
because they feel
reason.
like it.
Yes, yes, but it must be something else apart from that, because
Why?
I can okay, let me show you why. A lot of women, they are my classmates, yeah, and I keep asking them, yeah, when they come to university, they dress in that way, not just because they want to look beautiful, but they want to get more attention. They want to make boys look at them and look so sexy as they claim, yeah. So
How do you know that?
come on, you don't know women.
Well, have you asked them?
Oh, come on, man. Don't be innocent. I mean, you know, women that they are dressing for a purpose.
No, not all women do. You see, this is a point that I'm trying to
No,
make.
but do you
Not
agree?
every woman goes out and does something for a reason. Some girls just go and dress the way that they feel like it because this is how they feel at that moment in
Yes.
time. In the morning, when they come out of the shower, they think, oh, today I'm going to wear green.
Okay, I'm
They
not
don't care
generalizing.
that this is a
You're
turn
right.
on for some men. Come
You're
on,
right.
this
You're
is the
right.
point.
You're right. You're right. I'm not. There are
Okay,
some
but
good
answer.
women.
Sorry. Ayub,
All
Marshall.
of them.
I want
Okay.
Let's go with the worst. Let's go with your best case. In other words, the worst case scenario from our point of view on this discussion. Let's assume that every woman that wears a low-cut top or a mini skirt is doing so to get. Is that wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I don't get you. Can you repeat that again, Rob?
The discussion is going between whether what her intent is. You seem to be saying that if a woman intends to have, like your colleagues at the university, your female colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
if they intend to dress sexy for people to look at them,
Mm-hmm.
that's wrong. But if a woman dresses sexy because she wants to have the sun hit her arms and legs and to feel the wind on her skin, that's okay. Am I summarizing your position correctly?
I wouldn't say it's wrong, but I would say it's done for a purpose. Yeah, because I can't say it's wrong because that's her. She can do whatever she will. That's her life. That's her decision.
Point of view.
Yes.
From your point of view, does the purpose that she's dressed a certain way matter?
Yeah. And then you know what arises then the question arises here is why people look at them. When men look at those women and keep chasing them, then you have to understand why. Because they are choosing, have decided to do that because they like it. They are not doing it because they want to. There's no problem with that. I'm not saying there's it's totally fine. Did I say it's wrong?
If you were in charge of the country, and I won't mention it unless you want me to, if you are in charge of the country would you make a law that says every woman can dress in any clothes they want at any time?
Yes, I would if I want.
In other words, every woman can wear short skirts and short tops and high heel shoes whenever they want. Would you allow that or not?
If I want to, I would definitely allow it. That's something. If I want it, if I'm happy with it, then I would do it.
So then I don't see what point you are trying to make here. You are essentially saying.
No, what I'm saying. Let me just summarize what I'm saying. I'm saying, of course, I'm not generalizing. I'm not saying all the women are the same, but I'm saying, yeah, as far as I know, the women dress in a sexy way just because they want it. It's because it's done for a purpose. Either to.
I understand that.
That's my whole point.
So what?
So
what? Everybody does something for a purpose. What's the point of you saying that sentence?
There's nothing there. I'm just saying, because you're saying the women can wear whatever she wants, yeah. Position, yeah.
My position is that a woman should be free to choose whatever she wants and wear it at any point. And we as men need to behave ourselves. They should not have to cover up because we can't control ourselves. That's my whole argument.
Okay, and let me ask you, imagine that woman dressing, she's naked, yeah, and she's walking in the street, and a man came, yeah, and he called her a slut. What that man done is acceptable or not?
No.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
If a man called a woman who dresses in a sexual way, meaning like she's half naked, and that man called her a whore or a slut, do you think what that man did is justifiable and acceptable?
No.
Fine. So you're saying it's not.
Let me put it the other way around.
Hold on.
No, you wait there a moment. You've given that example. If a man was walking around with just his underwear on and a woman came up and said, "You slut, you male slut, you know," would that be okay?
Say no.
Why not?
Okay, but I asked you a question about what are you answering my question with a question? How is that even fair?
What is your question? I'm trying to show you that it works both ways. It should be equal.
No, but what I'm saying, no, you have to. You don't get my point. I'm saying if that woman, yeah, who decided to wear in a naked way, and she decided to do that because she likes it, or she want to do it, or she want to reach a particular, she want to look more beautiful and gain more people to look at her, and a man came and called her, "Hey, you're a slut." Do you think what that man said is justifiable and acceptable?
No, I've said no.
Okay, then
No.
it's no. But I would say it is fine as long as that women for a particular to provoke him, and because that's the whole point. They are doing it to make men look at them and make them, even I would use this word, but it's not. I know it's funny, but this is my view. They are doing it
No,
for.
Marshall, it's actually not funny because we've been trying to ask you for the last, I don't know how many minutes, and so fucking what?
It's fine. I'm just saying they are doing it for a purpose. This is
And
my
so
point.
fucking what?
It's no fucking fine.
But then what is your point? What are you trying to tell us?
I'm just
Is
saying
what
when a
he's trying to
man
say, stops, and he's not quite
is
articulating it very well, is that it's justifiable for a man to walk up to a woman who's half naked or skimpily dressed, and for him to say slut or some other thing because of the way she's dressed.
no, what I when a man are trying to get closer to those women and try to get like, look at them and look at their bodies. You have women shouldn't complain that they are doing it and they have to accept the consequences.
And this is the point where I get angry because no, that
Me
is
too.
not the case.
What do you what I don't
Yes.
what do you mean? Okay,
They don't deserve that behavior because they are wearing those clothes. And if you can't
oh,
understand
hold on.
why, we will explain it to
So
you.
if they are doing it, no, hold on. So if they are doing it to impress people and make people look at them more sexually, do you think then it's
So
fine?
that's your
I
assumption.
can look
And
at her. No, I can look at her. I can look at her in a very sexual way. I can play with my own eyes, look at the whole of her body. Then that's fine. She shouldn't be complaining at that point because that's her.
she's not complaining if you look at her. She's complaining if you give her, if you say that she's a slut or in any other way,
No,
quote, insult. And I'll use
no,
that term for the
no,
moment.
no.
Insult her.
Yeah, I agree. Calling her a slut is something else. Then
You
that's
just said you said it was justifiable for a man to call a woman a slut if she's wearing little or no clothing. And Stops and I say no, it's not justifiable ever.
I said it's justifiable looking at her in a very sexual way and trying to
Nope,
get closer. Hold on, and trying to get closer to her, as long
nope,
as as long as that was the reason why she dresses that way.
nope.
Oh,
You made 3 points. I said no to all three.
right, then you
Look,
disagree,
Marshall,
obviously.
I mean, I went out. I didn't dress in any particular way. A woman came up to me, chatted me up. We went home. She took me home, and that's it. So that was a nice evening. Did I provoke this? No. Did I dress in a sexual way? No. Did I go out and intend to be picked up by some woman? No. It is just something that happens. If the vibes are right, if the scenario is right,
Okay,
if everything fits, it works. It is not an intent every single time. And I think it's
okay. Let me.
chauvinistic to go and now insinuate that if a woman goes and dresses in any particular way, she's only out to go and get sex. That is false. And I cannot stress this enough. Men need to learn how to behave themselves. Men need to learn how to restrict themselves and take no for an answer. And this is
Here,
something
here.
that all men need to learn.
That's
But Marshall, it's people like you who say there is an intent. Women have an intent in dressing like that, to be provocative, to be sexually provocative, and they shouldn't be surprised if they are being taken up and then somebody molests them. That is wrong. And that is it. There is no discussion here. It is wrong. I'm not going to give even half an inch here. It is wrong.
well. I never said it's not wrong. I mean, it's wrong. But what I'm saying, yeah, I'm not saying all. Here, once again, I'm not generalizing. I'm not saying all the women
Marshall,
are the
you
same.
stop
But I'm saying,
waffling. You just said it's okay if a woman dresses provocatively to go and get closer to her and look at her in a sexual way.
yeah,
It is
that's
wrong.
fine for me.
That's
Because
it. It's
okay,
wrong.
let me tell you why that's fine. I have explained to you why. As long as that woman chooses to dress in that way, because that is her whole goal is to make people look at her in that way and be more
No, it's
impressive.
wrong. This is how many times? Okay,
Sure.
listen, we need to
We're going
stop
to have
this
a woman
because this is
joining
going
us.
nowhere.
That's my view.
Yeah. We're going to have a lady join us in a moment, and she can give us a lady's perspective. So she
That
will
would be
be
great. That would be great.
out shortly here.
That would be
And I would prepare yourself, Marshall. Put
because
on some armor.
okay, but because why I'm
Um,
saying that is
Is
because
she
I
going to
have
join
to
us topless?
one
no,
state
because then
because
Marshall might say she's a slut. We don't want that.
come on, man, are you serious? Come
I'm
on.
joking. No,
Oh,
but your
Rob,
bigger point,
Rob.
Marshall, is that women,
Nah, but let me just
in
say
a
why.
sense, what you're
Because
saying.
once I was talking to a classmate. Yeah, she was my classmate, and she even though she's Muslim, but she's quite open-minded. She does not fully practice her religion. And I was asking her why women dress in a in a very sexual way, and guess what she said to me? She said, "I'm trying to impress the professor."
So what?
She was doing it to gain the intention of the professor and look at her more girls. She wants him to look at her in particular.
And
That was the purpose. So she
so
have to
what?
so okay, let me
What are you
Okay,
getting at?
Marshall.
I'm saying
Okay,
if a
Marshall,
boy
just
if,
a moment. I'm going
yes,
to welcome in Betty, who's going to give us a woman's perspective. Betty, over to you.
Oh, hi. I've just literally just come
Hello.
in. So sometimes I can, listen a bit more so I can understand what you're saying.
hope I
We
think
would.
she's gonna kill me because I said this.
Yeah, well, then you just got to take the heat. You're a man; you can handle it. Betty, this hangout is obviously carrying on from the hangout that you and I were on earlier,
Okay.
and obviously the particular stubborn person that I thought was very stubborn in
Yeah.
their view, and I've articulated it earlier on in the hangout itself. But basically, where we're at now is Marshall says that if a woman's intent is to get men to look at her, and she walks outside in the street in a small outfit or semi-naked or whatever the case is, we haven't said where yet, let's assume it's the Western world, then a man is justified in saying that she's a slut or whatever the case is.
Rob,
And
please,
we are
please,
saying, no, it's not. So I
you're
love your position.
misrepresenting me. Rob, please. I didn't say she's a slut. I said
I didn't say you said.
in that okay, but please let me just clarify. I said women chose to dress that way, then it's fine for other men to look at her in a very sexual way. That's my whole point.
Problem with that? That's not what you originally said.
No, that's what I said. I
You said
never said you
that
can
if a
call her
man
a
walks
slut.
up to her, I didn't say you did. You said if a man walks up to a woman who is dressed or undressed, and her purpose, I don't know why, you still haven't justified why the purpose is important, but her purpose is to attract male gaze. And he says to, hey, woman, you're a slut for dressing or undressing. You said he's justified in saying that. That's what you said earlier.
I said it's not fine. I didn't say it's fine. I said it's not okay.
Okay, let me ask another way around. Marshall, what happens if you are sitting somewhere and a girl comes in who is dressed provocatively? How would you go and approach her? Are you justified in getting closer to her and then looking at her in a sexual way?
Okay, we have a woman here, so let us ask her
I just
because
asked
she
you a
knows
question.
more than us. Okay, but let us ask because she's a woman, so she knows more about this than us. Okay, Betty, what do you think? I mean, let me. Here's the question: do you think that most? I mean, yeah. Do you think? I mean, even you, yeah. Do you guys or do you girls dress just because you want to look beautiful, or there is another purpose behind that?
Isn't it a bit of both? It depends on where I'm going.
Exactly.
If
That's
I
not
want to go to
so.
if I want to go to the shop, and it's raining, I'm going to dress to cover up. But if I want to go out or I'm going on a date, I want to look nice for the man I'm going on a date for. But obviously,
doesn't it? I
on
mean,
a first date, you're gonna you. I don't want everything hanging out. You know, you want to leave something to the imagination. But I think some women do dress for men. I think any woman dresses for a man, to tell the honest truth. You want a man to like you. You know what I mean? I think if you say you don't want a man to find you sexually attractive, I think you're just lying, to tell the honest truth.
That's right.
I just disagree with that, Betty. Marshall hasn't been very articulate in saying what he's saying. There's a question here. Hang on a second, Marshall. The question from Sarah in the chat is, there are women in tribes in South America and Africa who walk around with their breasts out. Are they sluts?
No.
No, not you, Betty.
Oh my God! Hold on. You see, Rob, you're playing games now. You are playing.
No, wait.
Hold on.
Marshall, can I just ask Betty a second question, which is following up from your question?
But I
Betty,
never
from a girl's point of view, if you go out in the evening and you dress up to look nice, and you look, you know, you're trying to dress up. This is what the whole thing is. Excuse me. Are you then implying that you are to be had for a sexual encounter? Are you behaving in a sluttish way just by dressing up?
No, because at the end of the day, just because, regardless of what you're wearing, you know, a man shouldn't touch you because you don't own her.
Exactly.
Correct.
You know what I mean? You don't.
Correct.
What doesn't belong to you? Because I could say the same thing for a man. If a man walks around in shorts in summer, because he puts it on display, does that give me a right to touch him?
Exactly.
And it doesn't. Just because something's on the display in the shop doesn't give you the right to take it and touch it.
That's correct.
You know, that's stealing.
But
if I take it, it's stealing. And it comes the same thing with people.
What Rob said, even women dresses in a naked way, do I have the right to call her a slut? Of course not. That's not acceptable. That's totally wrong. How can I call someone a slut if she dresses in that way? That's her view. That's her life. She can do whatever she wills. But what I'm saying, I to look at her in a very sexual way because that was her purpose of dressing that way.
You don't know that. You don't know that. You're making that assumption.
Okay, we have two options. Either she dresses to look beautiful, or to be impressive and make more men look at her.
No, but that's different. If it's summer hits, yeah, and men are allowed to wear their top off. But if you get hot as a woman and you get the sweat underneath your breasts, you know, it's not socially acceptable to take your top off. So if a woman wants to take her top off, are you saying that she's trying to attract men, or is it just because she's hot? Because in other places in the world, she could do that. Yes. And she wouldn't be accused of trying to attract men. It's just because she's hot.
Yes, that's right.
I can go to the village in Africa and do that, and I'm not going to be accused of being a slut because that's socially acceptable in that village. You want a very dangerous path. There's different rules for men and there's different rules for women, and it's not fair here. It's very
absolutely right.
But I agree.
And it's religiously based.
Yeah. I agree with that, but you don't know what's going on in the mind of a woman.
What did you say? Excuse me. What did you say? Can you repeat?
I said I agree with that. It's fine. I'm not saying that's not okay.
Okay, so do you accept our position, Marshall, or not? In other words,
yes.
No matter what a woman wears, it's never acceptable for a man to, let's call it, insult her in any way. If he looks at her,
absolutely,
he looks at her.
Absolutely, yeah. But what I'm saying, here's the game.
He says she's a slut.
No, calling her name.
She's a slut, Marshall.
Okay, let me answer. Calling her names is not acceptable, but looking at her in a sexual way, it's fine.
No, in his head. What people think, we can't control what people. Sorry. Carry on, Betty.
Yeah, so I'm just saying there's a way of looking, isn't there? Because sometimes, because what you got to remember, some women are well endowed. So someone that hardly has any breasts can wear a top and it doesn't look sexual. But if someone who is well endowed, you can see a lot more, and people will perceive that in and you know, like she's giving the come on, when all it is because she's well endowed. You can't hide breasts if you've got big breasts. I think some people are asking women to actually hide the fact that they're a woman, and then saying, "Oh, she was giving me the come on," when all she was being a woman. Because I had a situation at work where I wore a dress, and the manager didn't like it. And obviously, because I had some breasts, and then his wife was there, and she didn't have any breasts, and he was complaining and telling me to cover up. But there was no dress code at this place.
No, Betty, what I'm saying, imagine that a woman is walking right next to me, and she's moving her boobs in a very sexual way. Do you think I would say, no, I need to protect my
sexual way? Was she grabbing them? Do you mean she's grabbing the boobs, or is it just moving?
Exactly. Yeah.
So they're just moving naturally.
If she's moving her boobs, just to provoke me.
Because you can grab your boobs, because breasts move in general if they're big.
You can obviously see it's done for a purpose.
I think you are putting too much.
Because I don't understand that. Because when I walk, my breasts move.
No, I'm saying it's obviously you can observe it, that it's doing it to make you look at her.
How do you mind read that? Yeah.
If she's holding her hand.
Did she tell you that, Marshall? Or are you just inferring it in your mind?
Let me if she's holding her hands and putting it on the top of her poops and trying to move, and play with it, do you think that it's done just to make fun of it?
If she's doing that, then that's different. Yeah.
You see? There you see.
No, Marshall, you are changing the scenario. You are telling us now that you are on a one-on-one situation and the woman opposite you is massaging her breasts for you.
That wasn't our example, but even if that's the case, unless she says, "Hey, Marshall, I'd like you to touch me. Can we have a conversation? Do you want to come?" She doesn't say anything and did that. You're still not justified in touching her. You can look. She can't stop you looking, but she can stop you touching.
And but the thing is also with the point that Betty is making, I think is important. There's a difference between looking and ogling or staring or something like this. I think this is a huge difference.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes.
Okay, but Betty, I have another question to you. Sorry that I'm using you as a specimen here, so as it were. I just saw somebody in the chat saying, "Well, a woman that dresses provocatively is asking for it." What is your reaction to that?
You don't own her. You don't know what is in her head. You think that she's asking for it, but like I said, if I go to a shop and there's a beautiful handbag that I want, if they put it on the display, is the shop basically telling people to steal it because they put it on display? Because that's exactly what you're saying. Because she dresses provocatively, she's asking for it. But the stuff in the shop, is the shop asking people to steal stuff because they put it on display?
That's a wonderful point. Thank you.
You don't know. I'm saying you don't know what's in the mind of the women. How can you know what's? I would bet with all money.
You ask. If you like a woman, there's a way to approach a woman, but don't be touching what doesn't belong to you.
I mean, depends on how the woman behaves. It's all about behavior. If you behave in that way, you can clearly say it's doing it for. I would consider it as for a purpose. Then
Okay, I think it's more about how you behave, not how the girl behaves. I think it's about how you react to things. If there are subtle pointers, you can always go, exactly as Betty says, you can ask. You can always go and introduce yourself and chat and talk, and then you see what it's at. But you don't go and automatically assume, oh, she's got a low neckline, then automatically she wants me to grope her. That is not how it works.
I'm not.
I've had that situation when someone's broke me, and I've just been sitting on the couch.
No, I'm just what I'm saying.
You touching my leg, and I'm like, "Why are you touching my leg?" I'm just
okay. Let me. Okay,
Hang on a moment, Marshall. I want Betty to finish. So what happened in that scenario, Betty?
I was just on the coach going to Liverpool, and this Moroccan guy sits next to me. Either Moroccan or I don't really know what part of Africa, North Africa he's from. Mum, let me get my phone. And he's from like North Africa, and he just starts rubbing my leg, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm gone. You know, you've not introduced yourself. Who are you to rub my leg? And then when I tell him to stop doing it and tell him to get off, he's like, oh. But he doesn't get off. He doesn't move from me. And I didn't do anything.
Holy.
I was sitting down on a coach. That was not right.
No, you seem to handle it very well, in a sense of like some other woman would have slapped him, kicked him, or done something, and they would have been justified. That was essentially assault.
Yeah, it was not. It was out of order. But those North Africans, they're wandering the Arab hand. They don't know how to behave. Some of them.
Yeah, that is ironic. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. And you wouldn't necessarily know why I'm not going to say on the show here, but so I think we're in agreement. I think although Marshall's still got a slight disagreement, but I think we're in agreement that, or I am. Let me put my position, Betty. If you believe I'm incorrect in some way, please feel free to do so. I think a woman should be able to dress however she wants in any scenario, and it's we as men that need to learn to behave ourselves. No woman can stop a man looking. So if she's walking out in public as opposed to in private, then Googling, there's nothing she could do about that. As long as she's not physically touching her or getting in her space and following her, because that could be seen as harassment, then she's entitled to dress in whichever way or undress in whichever way. Now, I realize in our society, because there's been a religious upbringing that for most of us, and we've come up in that way, in some way it's become against the norm to wear little or no clothing. But like you and I spoke about earlier, in many cultures in the world, and I actually think they are more advanced than us because we've had this religion indoctrination hammered into our heads, and it's still now even in secular society, and there is dynamics and other things going on. But there's many tribes around the world where people are naked, men and women, and it's totally natural. They're not overly sexual, like you pointed out in Nigeria and elsewhere, and that is actually. Now, would that work in our society? Not necessarily, but if that were the society, I think that would be a better place, because then you don't have that sexual urge in the same. It's just seen as completely natural.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
I think you're right. I think that's the thing. It's just you shouldn't be touching what doesn't belong to you. And I think this society in the West, men are given a free rein. A lot of men don't take responsibility for their actions.
I 100% agree. Having done all the relationship stuff, yeah, I agree.
It's a lot of.
It's our fault, not yours.
She was asking for it. She was what she was wearing.
Yes, I mean that's.
But
that
women could say the same thing.
It makes my blood boil. Yeah. But this is because we have a lot of low consciousness men that just think it's their right to do something. Because they don't know any better. They haven't been taught. They haven't been educated. It's like going to school and not learning how to count, and now you go and work at a till. I mean, you're going to have trouble, and this is part of the trouble, especially in Western society. But even in religious societies, they force women to clothe themselves to the neck or the head or whatever, so that they won't get feel attracted. Well, now you're making a woman dress in a certain way because you can't control yourself. Why not do it the other way around? How come men are not dressed to the hilt? Because maybe women are attracted to men, but no, it's always one way.
I think also because they want the women to cover up, because a lot of men don't want to end up being the police. Because if something does happen, if something happens now and the man tries to attack me, I'm going to call the next man, which is normally the police, to sort out the man that tried to assault me. And I think that's what it is in lot of those societies, that men don't want to have to deal with other men. Because we all know as a woman, if something happens and I'm in a bar and a guy tries to go at me, I'm going to call the next man. There's no point calling a woman because she's not going to have that strength. I'm going to be like, where's the other man to deal with this one?
My point of view is, even if I didn't know you, I'd want to help you. Partly because I think it's wrong, but also because I imagine, well, what happens if it was my wife? I would want to, or my other family members, I would want somebody to step in to help my wife, and I would help you just, from the reciprocal altruism, but also because I think it's wrong.
Yeah, and I honestly,
but I wasn't brought up that way.
Yeah, and I honestly don't think in those societies that where the women cover up, I don't think the men are prepared to do that. Because they go to such extremes to make sure that men and women don't come together in any social gatherings.
Well, you see, what religion appears to have done is made having sex and being open bad. And as long as that's the case, and has been, it's been going on for millennia, so we all have this inbuilt sociological thing of, oh, I shouldn't be naked. But you go to I haven't been myself, but if you go to like a naked, one of these naked resorts, you quickly, after a little bit of self, looking at it from people that tell me that have been, you quickly get over it, and everybody's, and it feels very liberating. Now, again, if you've got self-conscious about your body, that might be an issue. But, once you're out there, and the more that that's exposed, the less of a problem it is. Those people don't go around raping each other and touching other people.
No, they don't.
And so, but my point is that a lot of it is religion that says these things are bad, that stops sexuality, natural sexuality. Because if you look at young children, they don't have to be clothed up until 5, 6, whatever. They run around naked. It's not. They don't look at each other and go, "My God, look at you," or "You're a color," or "You're male or female. Look at that little thing between your legs," or whatever. They don't think like that. They just act naturally. So they get socialized to go, "Hey, it's wrong to do this." Why is it wrong? Nobody can say, because some old book said so 2,000 years ago. But then you look at the other cultures around the world where it's complete. Red Indians in Africa, South America, the Aborigines, wherever it is, where religion hasn't penetrated and infected people's minds, act very naturally. And there's not rape and pillage and mistreat women and anything in any of these tribes.
Yeah, I think also as well, it's the climate as well, because like if you're in a very cold climate, you are going to cover up, aren't you? And I think people have
no. Look at the Finnish. Look at the Finnish sauna principle.
Oh, well, I've not, but that's in the sauna, isn't it? You're not going to walk around naked outside.
Yeah, but the point is that they're still naked. So it is not that if you live in a country where it's very cold, you automatically cover up all the time. No, you also get naked when it is suitable and when you can.
I'm going to agree on that, because when I'm talking about Africa, obviously because it's warm most of the time, before the European colonization, people weren't wearing clothes in the region. Right? It'd just be maybe.
Well, what's your point?
If you want to be conservative, it might be a few leaves. But I would say in Europe you couldn't do that. But you couldn't do that in Europe because it's too cold to walk around nude on the street.
Yeah, so it's purely an environmental thing. It isn't, for any other reason. Sure, I mean, if it gets cold, you're going to dress in animal skins or whatever the case would have been for our ancestors. You're right. Otherwise, you wouldn't survive.
So I think the Europeans took that attitude around the world. They're forgetting their environment shapes your attitude. And
to a degree, I agree. That's why I say it's not exclusively religion, but it's primarily religion, because they took a book around the world and, as you say, indoctrinated tribes and people around the world and said, hey, some invisible entity in the sky said you should dress and you shouldn't do X, and here's all these rules. I can't prove it, but a book says so, and because an invisible entity said it must be true. And so you're right, that sort of culture spread throughout the world, and that.
Are you leading it back into Islam now, into Sharia?
Yes, there was a question in the chat about that, so maybe we can ask, do women have the choice to dress modestly, or is it mandatory under Sharia? Is a question in
well, this is the point. Because the Quran doesn't say anything.
I'm going to have to go, unfortunately.
Hey, Betty, thank you so much for coming in and giving a woman's perspective.
Yeah.
Thank you, and I'll check you out another time.
Every Friday normally, otherwise whenever we feel like it, basically.
Okay then. Okay, bye.
Bye. Yeah. Come on, we enjoy girls checking us out, right?
There you go. We're not sexist.
That was sexy too.
Okay, Sharia, Quran. We need to differentiate, because Sharia number one is based on what the Quran, Sunnah, and whatever the opinions are between those two. If we look at dress code in the Quran, like we said in the beginning, hijab is not mentioned. All it says is that certain things need to be covered in certain places and blah, blah, blah. And that is all that it says. So as usual, the Quran is totally vague and ambiguous, and it's only then the Sunnah where Muhammad then says, well, now women need to be different than men. Men just need to cover the place between the knees and the belly button, and the women need to cover all the adornments. And this is now the difference. So it's very difficult to have a straightforward or a concise opinion on what Islam says on dress code. It's impossible. So you can't really say that. So it's down to interpretation. And well, we see what the interpretation is. That's why we don't get the Islamic dress code for women. That's why you get anything from nothing if you're a Quranist, all the way to the niqab if you are a Wahhabi or something. So there's a huge amount of difference in dress codes, which are cultural. So you have different colors, different styles, different covering levels depending on where you live, not according to what Islam says. And that is why we have these differences.
Okay, so basically, to answer this, so as Stops has said, answering the question, that it varies. There isn't one specific thing. Would you say, Stops, though, as a general rule, looking across, let's call it the Islamic world, for want of a better word, Middle East and elsewhere, women are more modestly dressed than, let's say, Europe and the US, so the Western world, if I use that term?
I don't know what the word modest means.
So dressed from head to toe, basically.
Is that modest?
From neck to feet is covered, and your hands and your feet stick out. That would be, I'm guessing, modest.
Okay, for me, a bikini is modest. So I don't really understand modest. But if this is your definition, that if you are covering anything between the ankles and the head, then yeah, absolutely. There is no. I mean, if you look at India, you also have a similar dress code, but for example, they have a free belly button. So so it's cultural. So obviously, you see that there are differences. If you look at a geisha, for example, she's also covering parts of her body, but they have this thing about ankles and feet. So it's cultural. That's all it is.
Okay. And if those women come over here to the UK, would we consider them, would you say, I'd use I can't think of a better term at the moment, overdressed, so to speak?
Well, it's intolerant. I mean, even in Dubai, never mind the more, I mean, if you go to Riyadh, obviously, and in Kabul, they don't even do it. But in Dubai, for example, which is so open and so westernized and so whatever, every time you enter a mall, you are being reminded to adhere to the local cultural dress code. Everywhere you go in the GCC, in the Gulf countries in the Middle East, you see signs. Please respect our culture. Dress according to our culture. Cover up what we want. It is not acceptable to wear a tank top. Mini skirts are not acceptable. You see the signs everywhere, always saying, please respect our culture when you are here. And the irony is that those very same people then come here to Europe, and now we need to respect their culture again. And this is what I call a hypocrisy.
I mean, it's a different point, but it is a good one in the sense that over there, they seem to be, quote, in inverted commas, more modest, and you are encouraged, or they insist upon you following their norms, whatever the norms are. Let's just say in this case, dress code. Here, the norms are a lot less, but they come over here potentially, or some people do, not all, of course. Some people come over here and say, well, our dress code, which is, in a sense, I'm just a colloquial term, we're
more
overdressed, but yeah, well, we're more liberal, but they are going, no, we are more modest or more conservative, and you need to respect. Well, of course, I don't mind how somebody dresses per se, although I do believe that every woman, especially in Western world, needs to show her face for a security, if nothing else, because you don't know. And we've had men who have, but that's a practical, that's a separate practical argument. But so, yes, they can dress how they want. I guess the question is, what would the ideal be? Would the ideal be, or is it, because at the moment, some religious people believe that the ideal for them is women should cover up because that prevents men from being attracted to them. Women should behave or should behave in a certain way because essentially, they don't want to say this, but I will say it, men can't control themselves.
Yeah, but those are two different points, because on the one hand, and I hate this like with a passion, that we automatically associate more clothing as more modest, and we are giving it a positive touch if a woman is more dressed than less, and that in my eyes is fundamentally wrong. We can't do that. We can't say that a nun, for example, is dressed appropriately. No, this is what a lot of Muslims do. And they don't realize that a nun is living outside of our society. She doesn't have a family. She doesn't have kids. She doesn't have anything. She is not part of our modern society in the real world. And you can't just take an example of a nun. And you can't just say the more you wear, the more modest you are, and the better it is for the woman, because then the man has less of a reason to go and rape her. This is so, it's amazingly wrong. It is so stupid that I can't get over this. It's exactly what Rob is saying. We need to teach the men to stop raping, not the women from protecting themselves from being raped. It's the other way around. And we can't do that by just saying, well, the more you wear, the less you stick out. It's the opposite. And this is now the second hypocrisy, because in Islam, the reason why they want women to dress is so that they don't stick out, so that they don't make an issue of how big the boobs are, or how whatever nice legs they have, or whatever the case may be. But in fact, in Europe, it is the exact opposite, because here they are sticking out. So by saying let's wear a burkini, you know, these stupid things that women wear on the beaches in France, for example, where there's been all this hoo-ha. This is stupid, because it's exactly going against the principles of Islam, which is not to make a scene of being a woman. And this is exactly what is happening, what they're doing. The second thing is that Islam is a political ideology, and only second place a religion and the spiritual side. The problem is that the burkini and the burqa are being used as political symbols, where people are saying, you see how many people are wearing the burqa or the niqab or whatever the case may be. That is how many Muslims we have. So it's a show of political force. This is why Muslim men, for example, love rocking up in their funny dresses and their funny caps, because they're making it a show of political presence. This is the point. You see, we are here to stay, we will not go away. This is now political. So we need to differentiate on the different levels, on the dress code, on the moral code, on the political code, and then on the culture. So there's different levels here.
Cool. Saracen's joined us. Welcome, Saracen. You no doubt will have some things to say.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I can't be long because I'm babysitting tonight. So
yes,
Saracen, you always say that. It
I am.
work
I literally am. I've got the monitor on, so I've come downstairs in the kitchen, so you might hear an echo. So yeah.
So what's your view on modesty, women dressed in modesty or not? And
So I mean, I largely agree with what Stocks and yourself have to say on this one. Actually,
just put your mouth a bit closer.
I can't hear him.
I've got you on my Bluetooth. Yeah, I've got you on my Bluetooth headphones. So that, like I said, it might not be clear. So if you need me to speak up, please tell me. Yeah, I'm going to try to speak as loud as I can on this.
I'll try and make you louder as well here.
Bear with me. Is that any better?
Yes.
Yeah, I've made you louder.
Okay,
as well.
thank you. Yeah, so I largely agree with what Stocks and yourself have to say on this issue, and I think a lot of Muslims don't understand this whole modesty thing. And I know I might even be gunned for this by some Muslims. But I think it's very important that we address this issue, because it's affecting people all over the world. And it's affecting people's mentality. And then when people come from foreign countries into Europe, it's very important for race relations and, our countries, that women get treated with respect. And that respect is, I believe, enshrined within Islam. So I think, go on.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, please. The problem is I'm going to have to speak about this you're going to have to give me at least 2 minutes to give you some background information. I know you guys aren't very tolerant, and you guys might...
Let's go for it.
Yeah. So during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was already hijab that women used to wear, this khimar. Some women, like the prostitutes, would wear it, but they would have their breasts covered. They were exposed even. There was women in Medina in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that were bare-breasted. Many of the so-called slave girls didn't have tops on. So this whole thing about the hijab, it started off with, if you look at the Byzantine Empire and the Persian Parsa system, Stops perhaps can comment on this. Traditionally, if you look at even watch the film Gladiator, you see the women who wore niqab or hijab, and sometimes with the head covering. It was to do with dignity. It was about to do with your character and how you present yourself. So the initial verses on hijab did not come straight away. It took some time. Similarly, the other thing was that men were supposed to start with their hearts. They're supposed to purify their hearts. So it says in the Qur'an, tell the believing men and the believing women to lower their gaze. In other words, you're not supposed to, even if there's a woman that's in front of you, like Stops said, naked, you're not supposed to look as a Muslim, and you're certainly not allowed to touch. So I heard Betty's story, and I think that's disgraceful. And I think, that is really, really wrong. So initially you had Muslims that went with that mentality that even if there was women, like I said, in Medina that were naked, Hazrat Umar, who was the second Caliph, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he actually prevented slave women from wearing the hijab, which is very interesting. So if it was a universal thing, if it was to do with modesty, then why did Umar stop women wearing hijab? And these were the slave women. It was to do with dignity. It's how you hold yourself. And it's not about a woman. Women should be allowed to wear what they want. We've got, as Muslims, no right to tell anyone what they should wear. And we certainly shouldn't think that they're sluts or whatever, whatever have you. I think that's really, I just want to
question for you then.
Yeah.
Where do you disagree with us in some way, or where do you disagree with me where I laid out my position a bit earlier? And I'm guessing it's similar to Stops is similar.
If you could just summarize that, just remind me of your position so I can comment.
I think a woman should be able to wear whatever she wants in theory. In practice, obviously, our society is not necessarily geared up for it. But let's assume, without going naked, because we're not allowed to do that here, but let's assume that a woman wants to wear a low-cut dress and a top that shows off some of the top of the breasts or whatever. She should be able to do that at any time, at any place, and not be in any way spoken to negatively or touched or anything like that. People can look because you can't stop somebody looking. But she should be allowed to do that with no restrictions.
Yeah.
Do you agree, or have you got some restrictions to that?
I would say in a Western context. So certainly if you're we're talking about the Western context, as in when I say Western, I'm talking about European and America, North America. In that sort of context where, the liberal democracy has been born out of secularism, that's different. I think absolutely, I agree with you. I think I agree with Marshall's point in the sense that if you go to a Muslim country where the Muslim ethics are slightly different, and I'm not saying that they're good at the moment, but I'm saying generally speaking, there's another way that we look at things. I'll give you an example. So in the West, when we talk about secularism, we've got people who can be in marriages or not marriages, they can just have sex openly. We know that doggying happens in park benches. Everyone knows about Clapham Common. We know STDs are really high, and this is a fact. We know sexual abuse, not Muslim abuse, sexual abuse in this country is at record levels. We know that domestic violence is at record levels. So these are the byproducts of a sexualized society, and we are creating hypersexuality in the West. Now, that said, Muslims have got no right. No, it's fine. You can challenge me. Muslims have got no right to tell you. But I think the reality is we have to face the reality that men and women are different. Now, I don't know whether this could be down to biology or, where people come from. But generally speaking, most men, I know Stops is an exception where you can go on a nudist beach and look at a woman and not get aroused. Fair play to you, my friend. But most men would get aroused when they go to these sort of places.
100% of the men on a nudist beach are not aroused.
Okay, maybe when you get to a certain age, that happens. But I think most young men.
Saracen, you're just talking shit. Again,
Yeah,
you're
fine,
talking
yeah,
shit. You're coming here with things like historic claims. You're saying at the time of the Prophet, the women were wearing this. This is bullshit. You're saying that
correct me. You can't just say.
in the Gladiator movie, the women were wearing something. This is a fucking movie. What's it got to do with anything?
No, it's actually no.
Then you're saying
no.
the
If you look at old
verses of the
times,
hijab came down in the Quran. There are no verses on the hijab regarding clothing.
right?
And then
So you're going to give
the
us
worst
Quranic
thing-
lessons
Saracen,
again.
can you let me finish? The
Okay,
worst thing that you are doing is you are saying that covering equals dignity. And this is where I get furious.
You actually haven't refuted anything I said. All you've done is gone on a huff and puff and said that it's bullshit. But you haven't. Come on, I want you to give me more. Come on, challenge me. Why is it bullshit? Don't just say it's bullshit. Tell me why.
Your arguments that you brought up are nonsensical. How can you come up with a movie and say in Gladiator the women were wearing hijabs?
I'm saying that if you look at historically in the Byzantine Empire, if you look at
We lost you. Maybe your headset is disconnected. We can't hear you, Saracen.
Because bringing up a movie like Gladiator and saying, well, in the movie they showed some women who were covered, that's absolute nonsense. Then I've just said, if the verses of the hijab, there are no verses of the hijab in the Quran. That's bullshit. I mean,
Yeah, but it's in a hadith.
it's not in the Quran. So don't tell me the verses about the hijab. And then the other thing is there are no... How can you make these historic claims that at the time of the Prophet, the women were wearing X, Y, Z?
I'm saying if it's in hadith, what's your point? It's the same because hadith and the Quran are the same. They are both authority to us.
The hadiths are contradicting the Quran left, right, and center.
It does not mention.
Let's not go down that.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There are no verses on the hijab regarding clothing. A verse is not a hadith. Okay, the verse is the Quran, and this is the difference.
No, are you looking? No,
movie doesn't help. But
are you looking for the word? Are you looking for the word hijab or what is it?
Because I'm looking for clothing. The word hijab is in the Quran. It's in, I think it's 16 times, but it's always referring to a piece of material, not clothing.
I see.
Not once does the Quran refer to clothing when it mentions the word hijab. Not once.
I have to look it up myself. I'm going to do it now.
Okay, let's just go back to what Saracen was saying. Saracen, when you come back on, just start speaking and we'll hear you because you've disconnected, so we cannot hear you. Maybe your Bluetooth headset is disconnected. Let's go back to what Saracen was saying in the beginning, which you did want to interrupt, and I was almost going to as well, Stops, where Saracen said, well, there's so many evils in the Western world, and the inference, although he didn't actually say it, is this is because of hypersexualization or everything sexualized, as if this is a problem. We have, let's call it, for want of a better word, evils in Western society, in effect, is because women don't cover themselves. And if he's not saying that, and that leads to sexualization, therefore certain things happen. And we can all be in agreement that certain things happen. The question is, what should we do about it? Should we now tell women to dress more modestly, in other words, dress up? Or should we educate men to behave themselves?
Exactly.
And what about the Islamic countries where he sort of went into a bit of a history lesson, but I'm not sure how that's relevant today. Maybe to try and justify why it was okay in Muhammad's time. I don't mind what happened in Muhammad's time. What happened in Muhammad's time is what happened in Muhammad's time. The claim, and this keeps coming back to the same thing I've said. If Muslims only said the Quran and the Hadiths and Muhammad's life were for the 7th century people at that time, none of us would have many of these problems. We'd be going, okay, maybe we don't agree with it, but that's what people were doing at that time. Fine, that's what they were doing. And in fact, people have done worse and more and different over the time. We're now in 2017. So if the claim is that anything Muhammad did or said is relevant today, then that's what we need to examine and go, is it in fact a good or better thing than what we have today? And so when we look at the Islamic world, where we see women are, quote, more modestly dressed, and the inference is, which Saracen hasn't unfortunately got to, and I hope I'm not mischaracterizing him, that's never my intention, is that because women are more modestly dressed, therefore there's less of these, quote, evils in the Islamic world.
which is
What is your thoughts on that?
which is not true.
If I've
I mean, no.
Yeah.
You have rape in Islamic countries, of course. It's only that it's like I could always relate. I mean, this is I was there. Okay, so this is firsthand. I know it's you can dismiss it, but this is what happened. The two girls were molested by the locals. They happened to work for our company, so they called our security. Our security came out and took all these guys down to the police station. One of them was well connected, so they were released after half an hour, and the girls were deported because they were behaving in an obscene manner, and all they were doing is they were driving home. And they were, they were spotted by some locals in cars. They followed them, and then blah blah blah. And this is the whole thing. So, is it now that the women were not covered, or is it just because they were Western girls? And now you can speculate on this. We do not know, but this is the reality. And the hypocrisy here is that the guys who did the molesting were let off scot-free, and the girls were deported. And this is where it gets wrong. And this is why I get so incredibly upset with people like Saracen when they come in and they say, the more you cover, the higher the dignity. Dignity is not achieved by clothing levels. For fuck's sake, stop doing that. I get really angry if people tell me if women only covered themselves, we wouldn't have these problems. No, it's by giving out health education, by giving out condoms, by educating people, by teaching the men how to respect women, and that a no is a no, and that yes, men and women are different, and men do have these strong sexual urges somehow, which I don't know why I don't seem to have. I've always had myself under control. I've even walked away from women who were incredibly randy because I made it a principle of not to go to bed with a girl on the first date. So, I've actually made women angry because I walked away. But for me, it was more important to be able to talk to this girl over breakfast than just to have a quick, sex romp or something like this. And this is, I think, the level of responsibility. This is what we need to get into people's heads. This is the way I think people should behave instead of just taking the opportunity of going for a quick leg over.
Well, I agree with you. I was brought up that way as well. I can admire women. It's exactly like Betty said. You can look into the storefront window. You don't have to go in and start touching the merchandise.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point, eh? That's a brilliant one.
Actually says to you, hey, please touch me, or makes it so obvious that unless you were brain dead, you could do that. But that becomes a gray area. If she doesn't verbally give you okay or say, hey, come back to my room, or whatever the case is, now you're in dangerous ground. But I agree with you entirely. We need to behave ourselves more. And the fact that most men are does not mean that we now have to impose essentially sanctions, for want of a better word, on women because we can't control ourselves. And of course, it doesn't work the other way around. Isn't it funny? It's always a one-way street. It's never the other way around where, we need to actually have a sanction on ourselves because maybe women are looking at us. Some women do, admittedly not to the same level as men do. But that doesn't make it the fact that we need to sanction them because we can't control ourselves. We've out of the caves now 500,000 years or however long. Let's kind of act that way and stop treating women they're lower than us in some way, and in some way psychologically. But that doesn't mean that they have to be sanctioned because we are unable to control ourselves. Yes, we have urges. We still can control them. You and I are both examples of this. I was brought up in a way where I respect women entirely, and I've been able to do that. And just because men haven't, or they've been brought up in a negative way, says something about them and their upbringing rather than about women. And so, if we could control ourselves better, I think actually that would give women the impression that, hey, I don't have to dress skimpily, because dressing skimpily doesn't add anything necessarily.
And it attracts the wrong kind. Yeah.
There you go.
And I think the most important wording, the most important expression I can think of is mutual consent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing, the thing is always, okay, this is how I always operated. If I went to a girl and we got personal and everything was nice and we gelled and we made out and things like that, but then if she then expected a certain type of behavior, I did not comply. And the thing is that some girls afterwards told me, why didn't you do that? I didn't really say no. I was just sort of saying no. I said, well, then don't do that. If you send out the wrong signal, not everybody is capable of interpreting it the right way. You need to be sure that the signal that you are sending out, that either it's a yes or a no or a maybe, then do exactly that, because otherwise it cannot be mutual, because you cannot expect every single man on this planet to interpret the signals that you are giving out in the right way. So you need to maybe think about the way that you are giving out signals to certain men, and you just need to be more well, more precise or more tuned into the person that you are sitting with. You can't expect every man to be the same and to understand your signals in the same way. So it works both ways.
I agree. That's a good point. And I haven't actually mentioned that, and you're entirely right. Women can also learn. They can learn to be more, like you say, clear. And again, it's a cultural thing, certainly in the Western world anyway, where women aren't this, because they feel like if they have to initiate in some way or make it very plain that they want to take the next step, then that's somehow slutty. And again, that's a societal thing, that if women want to do something, hey, a man is just a stud, he's just a dude. But when a woman does something like that, then she's a slut. So there's a negative connotation when a woman wants to do it. So women now have to tiptoe around and try and give hints when they actually want to say it. But if they do say it, then they might be seen as a slut. And so you're right, they're also in that position. But it goes back to, the relationship training I used to do, is show up in the way that you want somebody else to be attracted to. But that's how you should show up in life anyway. And of course, just going off track slightly, when we have dates with people, what do? We don't act how we normally are. So when women go out on their first dates, they act super well-mannered, they pull out the chair, they do all these wonderful things. And so the relationship starts. And I used to hear it from tons of women when I used to coach. Wow, what happened to that man that I met when we first started dating? He's not the same guy. No, he's not the same guy, because he was trying to put on a show for you of what he thought you wanted him to be like. And then over a period of time, he becomes the guy that he normally is. And it's not quite the guy that pulls out the chair and does all these lovely things and dresses perfectly. He forgets to shave. He doesn't shower every day. That sort of, whatever it might be. My view is show up how you're going to be every single day. Now, somebody would say, hey, Rob, but then I'm not going to get many dates. Well, it depends what you want. If you just want to attract women to have one-night stands, then you put on whatever you're going to put on. But if you're really looking for someone, I'm not saying go there unshaven and just in your underwear, but just be who you really are. Don't put on a show. But both people are doing this, like you said, and it does relate to women. So they're putting on a show of, hey, this is that. What they really want to say is, man, stops. If there was a woman out there, I'm not saying the stop. So please, before anybody says, imagine a woman who's sitting with you and she goes, stops, you know what? You're an amazing guy. I'd love to take you back to my apartment and shag you all night. But she would never say that because, oh, what would somebody say? But men can say that. So again, it's like a double standard that we've imposed, and they're playing along with to some degree, where they can't say some of these things. And women, like you say, have urges just like men. And so maybe it's being more open and honest and not denigrating women who actually do want to have sex, because most men, as everybody in the chat says, also wants to have sex. So what is it about us that we're a stud and it's okay for us, but it's not okay for women?
Yeah, but we still have problems, because even in our culture, the equal rights are still theoretical. There are still differences, there are still grievances, there are still discrepancies, absolutely. But the thing is, we are able to address them. I watched a video on Monday or Tuesday, I think it was, where this guy that I ridiculed, Mohammed something. I mean, he actually goes in front of a Christian preacher in Hyde Park in Speaker's Corner, and he says, why are you saying it is wrong for a man to have 4 women? Do you think it would be better if a woman had 4 men? If she had a child, how would you know who the father is? And I thought to myself, what a primitive asshole. He is so full of himself that he thinks paternity is so important, when the woman is the one who carries the child for 9 months. The woman is the one who gives birth. Who the fuck cares who the father is? He's just donating 23 pairs of chromosomes, a set of 23 chromosomes to complete the pair. And that is all the man is doing. He's just depositing some sperm in her. Why should anybody care who the father is? I think it's more important who the mother is. So I think, yes, women should have 4 husbands. And what is wrong with that? I don't understand how a man can stand in front of others and say, oh, imagine the horror. If a woman had 4 fathers, what then? I thought, no, come on. How primitive is this asshole?
You mean 4 husbands, I'm guessing you mean?
4, yeah, no, sorry, 4 husbands and 4 potential fathers. I forgot the word potential.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
I think
stop. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, do you think as men, do you think we have the right to sexually look at women?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's a good answer. I like it. Thanks.
Woman's not necessarily going to know unless you tell her. So if you're looking at a woman, it may be you're just admiring her. It may be that you've got more thoughts on your mind. But the looking is the looking. Nobody can stop that, and nobody can. And so, but what we can police is your actions, and we should.
Yes,
but behavior.
But it comes down to the previous point that I was trying to say. Some women, they tend to do that because they want to. That is their goal, to make people look at them.
No, Marshall. No. Now I need to qualify this again. I said you are allowed to look at a woman sexually. In other words, if I see an attractive woman, I will go in my mind, wow, that is an attractive and sexually attractive woman. But that is all. I do not act on this. I do not give her a cat call. I don't lean out of the window and howl, or riding past, hang on the hooter, or stupid things like that, or walking past, hit her on the rump, or anything like that. I don't go and stare at her. I don't make lewd comments. Hey, baby, how's it going? How's it hanging? I don't do that. I look at her and I look at her behavior and I think, okay, what would impress her? This is how I think. I don't go and do this stereotype thing of that's out. That's stupid.
Yeah. I agree. That's fine.
Saracen, if you're back and you want to say something, join in.
Yeah, hopefully. You might need to turn me up again, Rob. I'm going to be as loud as I can. Sorry, I did get disconnected. My battery died, and then I went upstairs. Very briefly, I just want. Yeah, so you might need to put me up. Yeah, so basically, I just want to hear what Stops was saying, that we were talking about hijab in Byzantine, and I was talking about how women in that culture, and certainly in the Persian Sasanian Empire, they did cover their head, and it was a sign of high culture. That was my claim.
Okay, but Saracen, what's the point of bringing up history?
The point was, because Stops just goes on, oh, that's bullshit, that's rubbish. What is that? You're quoting a film. You know, I'm saying, I'm not just quoting a film. I'm telling you, I'm using that as an example of it was historically based. It was to do
but regardless of what's true.
So what I'm saying to you, when you think about niqab, this was to do with dignity. This was, we have to understand the society of the Prophet ﷺ.
No,
we have to look at, no. Allow me to finish. We have to understand history. We have to contextualize it. You know, to simply
actually, we don't.
Actually, we do, my friend. And you, unfortunately, have got a very, very weak understanding of pre-Islamic Arabia, even though you like to speak very confidently on it. You know, and you have been exposed many times. And although you think you know Arabic, you don't.
You're just making stuff up, which is irrelevant.
Well, then I've asked you. You said I've spoken a lot of bullshit before. I'm saying it's to do with dignity. You're saying it's not. So I've asked you the question. Please explain why it's not.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part. What is the question?
My question to you is, I made obviously a statement, and my statement is based.
You made a what? No, I can't understand. You made a what statement?
I made a statement earlier. You probably heard what I said earlier. So my question to you, Stops, is what you said, it's bullshit, it's rubbish, it's none of it true, blah blah blah. You don't give the alternatives. What is not true? Why is it not true? You can't just simply go off on one and just swear and think your point is correct. So please explain to me why.
I told you, number one, you don't know this. Number two, it's nonsense. And number three, it's irrelevant.
First, it's not irrelevant. It's people like yourselves who want to have a debate on an issue like hijab and modesty without looking at the roots of it, looking at the origins of it, looking at where it came from. That's what we call a poor man's debate. It's what we call ghetto scholarship. So I would suggest to you, maybe before you do go off on one and how great everything is, maybe you should have a look on that subject. It is relevant. I'll tell you why it's relevant. It's relevant because if we are to challenge certain types of behavior within the Muslim community, as I said, certainly in certain societies, the example of the Prophet ﷺ and the early Salaf period is key. Now, if we can get in the Muslim community and change their hearts and explain to them that this was how people should view women, there was women walking around bare-breasted and the Sahaba, and they lowered their gaze, they didn't go around harassing. It was actually the biggest lowlights who used to harass the women on the street corners. So if we can use those examples, and this is why it is important, then perhaps we can move forward in society, we can change behavior. So it's hugely relevant. And I was going to address Marshall's point. Where Marshall's coming from, and if you go to Morocco, I understand where Marshall's coming from. I disagree with perhaps the way he's articulating it, but in certain countries where the culture is different, that there, unfortunately, this is how it is viewed. And certain women do dress provocatively. Marshall is from Morocco. If you go Marrakesh, go on a night out, and you know who the loose women are, unfortunately. That's just how...
yes. How long are you going to waffle?
Yeah, so this is the thing. You want a full answer, but you don't want to address the full answer. So again,
no, but you're
it's
rambling
not about waffling.
totally stupid things.
I'm not waffling on. There's a number of points that have been made on this show. I've joined the show. I've got very limited time. I've addressed your issues, and all you say all you can say is it's waffle or it's bullshit. But you never give an alternative. You're hugely arrogant in your approach to Islam in the way that you are. I'm just saying to you how it is because someone needs to tell you. And I'm giving you Marshall's point of view and perhaps articulate you. Perhaps, Marshall, you can come in and tell me if I've represented you.
No. I'm first going to address what you just said. I think Marshall is very capable of talking for himself. So number one thing, you have got everything totally, absolutely wrong. Because we are not talking about the Muslim community. We're talking about Islam. We're talking about the Quran and the Sunnah, not the cultural aspect of what each and individual Muslim in Marrakesh does. You are trying to personalize it, and it does not work here. You are on the Jinn&Tonic show. We don't fall for your bullshit. When are you going to stop it? Stay factual, stay on topic, and come and bring us arguments. Don't tell us that at the time of the Prophet, the women were doing X, Y, Z. Show me the source that you are getting this from. You cannot. There is no such thing. You always make up, sorry, I'm saying always. You are known to simply make shit up. And that's stupid. It doesn't work here. So stop doing it. Please bring me what is relevant. We are talking about the covering of women in Islam and in the Sharia. If you have an opinion on that, bring it. If you don't have it, leave it.
Okay, so you have to get something. Even prior to Islam, before Islam came in, there were women who covered themselves with what we call khimar or hijab. That
How
was
do you know this?
Before Islam. If you
how do you know this? What is your
any
source?
history book, Muslim or non-Muslim.
No, apart from that, have you seen as Saracen? He mentioned the movie of Gladiator. We call it here, yeah.
Yes.
Is that your source? Gladiator, the movie?
Yes. So
it doesn't matter. We're looking at Islam today. Whether there is a movie that is playing in some time where some guy was deciding on something is irrelevant. We're talking about Islam today.
Okay, but they were women who were not Muslims.
Who cares? They were women fully dressed. They were women naked. Who cares? I'm talking about Islam today.
Okay, the point sounds so clear. I'm sorry, Marshall. Let me just say, it's how can you divide Muslim behavior. How can you divide Islam from the time of the Prophet? I'm sorry, I don't get your logic. Stop. Please explain to me. You can't say who cares. Muslims care. The world needs to care. It's important that we get those facts right so we can change behavior.
No, we are looking at the source. We're looking at Islam. We're not looking at individual behavior. This is Islam, not Muslims.
So okay. So what do Islam? What are Muslims supposed to follow then?
I don't care what Muslims are supposed to follow.
Well, there you go.
I'm not here to tell Muslims what to do. I'm looking at analyzing. I am analyzing the text. I am investigating what Islam says according to the texts of Islam. This is what we're doing here. I'm not here to condone or criticize Muslim individual behavior.
Okay, so what do Sunnis follow? I'll tell you what they follow: Qur'an and Sunnah. Yeah, you can't just simply follow the Qur'an. You need to have the full understanding of the Sunni way. If you want to address this and you want to do it in an academic way and you want to do it in an honest way, then you have to go to the sources. You can't just, what you think the Quran says or what you feel. I mean, to be honest with you, no one gives a shit what you think, to be honest with you. Stop. You're just an arrogant man who, you got schooled a few weeks ago. You got exposed on your knowledge on the Quran, and it was quite frankly embarrassing for you. Ahmed, myself, Marshall was there. People can watch that back, and you still insistent on your interpretation is correct. So, I mean, you haven't really got much to offer other than being rude and being aggressive and saying bullshit and speaking very confidently and misleading people.
Well, then address not the person, but the facts. Go and address my argument. Show me where I'm wrong. Don't talk to me and tell me that I'm arrogant. Show me where I'm wrong. That's
okay,
easy.
So I'll address you. So I made a claim and Marshall's made the claim, and most historians, Muslims or non-Muslims, make the claim that before the Prophet ﷺ in pre-Islamic Arabia, there was women who wore this thing called simar and hijab. And it
so fucking what?
Okay, there you go. Now you love to cut in. Now, also in Persia and Byzantine, we're making that statement as a point of reference. From then
you don't know that. What is your source? Give me your source.
Okay, so I would say it's established history, and if you don't,
it's not established history.
It is established history.
What is your source?
Cool. Well, you can come next week and tell
I'm
me
not
where
going to
I'm
get
wrong.
into your level. Forget about this. I'm not interested. It's irrelevant.
Right, you're not interested. That's the thing. What you think is irrelevant, and you want to talk about Islam, my friend, you've got a lot of learning to do.
It's Islam today. We are not here to discuss Islam in the view of historicity of anything. We are here to discuss clothing levels in Islam today.
Yes,
I want to talk about the history of the clothing in Islam. That is when we go into these things, and I've done that, and I'm very happy to go there. I can do that. I've done it. I've researched it. But at the moment, I'm not interested in that. At the moment, I'm trying to establish what the rules and laws and etiquettes and beliefs and whatever we have today coming from Islam today, not 1,000 years ago.
Rob, let me ask you a question, because you're a fair person on this. Would you not agree with me on this, certainly, that the historiography, the time of the Prophet...
No, he's dropped off again.
Oh, again.
Okay. You do not see the relevance of the time of the Prophet today, unless what you're saying is that because that it happened at the time of the Prophet, therefore it's justified to happen today. And if that's the argument, why is that the case? Just because it happened at that time doesn't mean that it should be implemented today.
Did you read the 7 conditions for a women's dress?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
What about it, man?
This is a claim. This is what an old guy decided it should be.
Well, what about it, though, Marshall? Let's say I assume that all. What about it, though?
I'm just saying those are a condition which women should obey by.
Did Muhammad say those are conditions, or was it somebody else?
This is the interpretation of scholars.
So who cares what the scholar says? We want to know what Muhammad said, because every scholar's got his own opinion. So why should I care what the scholar says? If Muhammad made specific claims, then that's what we want to focus on, isn't it? Isn't Muhammad the most important person?
Yes.
Oh, God.
No.
In some cases, Muhammad's more important than God.
No. Don't you see? Oh,
No, it is when it comes to insults. When people are insulting, then Muhammad's more important.
Now you're
But
being
regardless, Marshall, you've put up 7 points there from some dude. If he's not Muhammad, give me an argument about why I should care. And does this apply to every Muslim on planet Earth? What's the point of putting it up?
I'm just saying what
I'll put
those
it into the main
scholars.
chat.
Okay, you put it there. I'm just saying these are the conditions with which scholars came up with. I'm not saying they are correct and you should respect them and obey by them.
But why are they important?
Okay.
I'm just saying what those. Oh my God.
No, yeah, why are they important? Why should anybody care about them?
I'm not asking you to care about them. I'm just saying those are any Muslim women today. She will mention those conditions, and you got.
So this is
you
just
have
for
to
amusement purposes or what?
Well, okay, but you have to
Watch
read them
through
first.
that. So what about it?
Okay, can you read them?
No,
Why not?
because they're irrelevant. We're not talking about this.
No,
Red herring
it's
is.
related. It's related to the topic.
No, it's not. Not really.
How? Okay,
Because you're throwing us
okay.
off topic. Because now we're starting to discuss the individual items here. But what we're trying to do is actually get to the root of the problem, which is the Quran. Let's start with the Quran. Then we go to the Sunnah, and those are the only things we're going to look at today. We are not going to analyze what some old dude said 1,000 years ago.
No, these are fiqh schools. This is not
Quran and Sunnah. Quran and Sunnah.
No, but those 7 conditions are from schools.
Yes, Marshall, we understand that. We understand this. We understand how Islam works. We understand how imams and how the different madhabs and everything. We understand that.
Right.
We're not interested in this topic at the moment. This is for another day. The same as the historical discussion on everything happened. This is for another day. Today we are looking only at the Islamic texts, the sources, which is the Quran and the Sunnah, what they go and say, what they dictate, what they go and what they stipulate, what a woman, what a man has to wear in clothing. That's what we're here to discuss today.
Okay, fine. So I'm gonna have to ask you, do you know what the Quran says regarding women's dress?
Yes.
Okay, you enlighten me. You tell me.
Why should I now? Is this a test or what?
No. I asked you a question and you said yes, you know. So can you just tell me what it says?
Well, there are conflicting passages in the Quran regarding what a woman should wear.
Okay, put them on the table and we can analyze them.
No, I am not prepared now to go into individual sentences in the Quran. I do not have a collection of them.
No, you are making a claim and you cannot back it up. You show me the verses and we can read them collectively and see what they say. Where are they conflicting?
Marshall.
Why not? No. He said, I asked him a question. What does the Quran says about women's dress? And he said the Quran says A and B and Z. I asked him, can he show me the verse where it says that?
Shows you?
No, because I know the verse. I'm waiting for him to say
it. Know it. So what's the point of that though, Marshall? It's just like a time waster. What is he shows you the verse, then what?
Now we have to go back to what you said to me before. If someone is making a claim, he has to back it up. He has to demonstrate his claim.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. I found it. 726. O children of Adam, we have provided you with garments to cover your bodies as well as for luxury. But the best garment is the garment of righteousness. Okay?
To cover your body.
Is the word hijab in the Quran? The word hijab appears in the Quran. Sorry, I said 7 times. 5 of them is hijab and 2 times is hijaban. This is in 746, 3353, 3832, 415, 4251, 1745, and 1917. None of these hijab words are used in the Quran in reference to what the tradition was called today. Hijab. If we look at the historical background, and how many more sentences do you want? Let's go to 24:31 and tell the believing women to their eyes and meditate their chastity. They shall not reveal any part of their bodies except that which is necessary.
It doesn't necessarily have to
They
mention
shall not relax this code in the presence of other than their husbands, their fathers, the fathers, the husbands, the sons of their husbands, their brothers, the sons of their brothers, the sons of their sisters, other women, the male servants or employees whose sexual drive has been nullified, or the children
why are you
who
being
have
so
not
fast?
reached puberty.
Okay, I'm muting both Stops and Marshall.
No,
Yes,
hold
I'm
on.
muting you now for a moment.
Be fair. Come on, man.
I am muting you both at the moment. Now wait. Into this now. What's the point of this, Marshall? What we are talking about is the modestly dressed or not. Is it okay for women to be not modestly dressed, in other words, skimpily dressed or not? And you are now asking for Quranic verses, which he's giving you. So what about it? What is it? What is your end goal? Because I don't want to spend 15 minutes or 20 minutes and you've got no point, which is sometimes what happens with you. What's the point?
Rob, he was using the Quran and the Sunnah as his supporters to. I asked him a question. What does the Quran says about women's dress? And he said he knows. I asked him, can he show me the verse?
He's just read it to you. What about it now?
What can now? I was gonna deal with the verse he read. Let us
gonna deal with. What do you mean you're gonna deal with? I'm here.
I see that you're kind of helping him because you know where I'm coming from. That this is why.
No, I don't know. You're all over the show here. All we want to deal with is how should women be dressed today?
Well, okay, let me ask him. Stop. So why did you read this verse?
Because you claimed I do not know the sentences in the Quran.
Okay, and what is your point? The Quran is not. Okay, hold on.
How stupid your challenge is.
Okay, you're making the claim that the Quran does not mention the word hijab. That's what you said, right?
That's not what I said, no.
Okay, what did you say?
Do I need to repeat everything? I've said it, I don't know how many times now. Marshall, we cannot go and say everything again and again and again. You need to pay some attention and not just give us knee-jerk reactions. I'm going to humor you. I'm going to humor you. I'm going to do this. But now listen, I'm not going to do this again. You need to listen to things that we are saying. The word hijab is not mentioned in the Quran in connection with clothing.
Okay, fine. So I think you're gonna as Saracen said, you have to take some Arabic lessons. Okay, let me tell you what. The word hijab, if you know the Arabic language, I'm gonna give you an example. The word hijab only related to clothing. You can never use the word hijab in any other different context.
Well, then tell your God about that. Your God doesn't know this yet.
No, but you're saying the word hijab. The word hijab.
What is the point of this, guys? How is this helping us understand whether women should be moderately dressed or not?
It's not. It's just part of the whole system, because people are saying the God thinks that women should wear a hijab. And what I'm saying is no, because God does not mention the hijab in connection with clothing in the Quran. So we need to look at other places.
Do you know the Arabic language?
I'm an expert in the Arabic language. I know every single Arabic dialect, including ancient Arabic.
Okay, where did the word hijab come from?
I just showed you. I just gave you the sentences where it comes from.
Can you give me the etymology of the word?
I'm not here for an Arab test.
Because you don't. Oh man, you're lying now. You don't know where the word came from, and now you're saying it does not refer to clothing.
It does not matter. It does not matter, Marshall. It does not matter. Show me one instance in the Quran where the word hijab refers to a piece of clothing, and then we can start discussing this.
I'm saying
stop doing this. No, it doesn't work like that. If you are saying that Muslim women are commanded to wear a hijab, then go and show me in the Quran where it says it.
No, okay, I got what you're saying now. So are you
This is a
asking
separate
me to
point, though, guys.
to help? Okay, are you asking me to find where it says that women should dress hijab? That's your.
You got it.
But now you changed it. You were
I'm not.
saying,
This is what I said all the time.
okay, I'm gonna show you something. The Quran does not say women should wear hijab. But if you go back,
Thank you. So we agree.
okay, but hold on,
Okay.
calm down. Don't be happy. Don't be happy.
To have a
But
discussion.
if we have to use the hadith too. How can we
No,
use
we
some?
don't. The point is the Quran does not tell women to wear hijab. This is the
Okay,
point number one.
okay, does the Quran show how to pray?
It doesn't matter.
You see, why can't you answer the question? Does it teach us? Does it instruct us on how to pray?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't tell women what to wear. This is the topic for today.
I'm asking you a question.
I'm not answering it.
Why not?
Marshall, I think we've got to the end of this. This is a separate discussion about what sort of, whether the Quran suggests there's a hijab or not. That is
But I don't
irrelevant to the
understand.
point.
I don't understand why he cannot answer my question. Because when he asks me a question, I do answer it, and then when I ask him, it's not fair. Wow.
Marshall, it's irrelevant to the topic that we're talking about at the moment, whether
It's the
the
same.
Quran commands somebody to wear a hijab or not. Do you understand that?
But you can never have Islam without Hadith. You can never have Islam without the Quran. Those two fundamental elements are they are the one making up the religion of Islam. How can you use one book and then you reject other things?
We're not rejecting anything. We are saying at the moment the Quran does not say does not tell women to wear a hijab. That's the number one point that we're making.
The
Can we
Quran
continue now?
says, okay, it's pointless. Let's just move on.
Okay, after that digression that didn't seem to get us anywhere at all. Welcome, Answer. Thanks for coming into the chat. What's your view on should women be modestly dressed as suggested by Islam, to whatever modestly dressed is? And I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that Islam does not allow or permit or suggest that women should walk around in bikinis. So what's your view on that? So modestly dressed could mean many things, as Stops has said. A general understanding that seems to be the case. We don't know exactly in the Quran according to Stops, etc. But let's say they want women dressed from head to toe. In other words, clothing covering most of the body parts. In other words, a bikini would not be considered covered. So as an example. So, and so I don't know if you're listening, but have you got any thoughts? Otherwise, I'll pass over to Stops.
I'm not too sure about exactly what the Quran says about it. I'm not particularly interested in the specifics. It does seem, though, that from Muslim societies and Muslim people, that they seem to think that it's very important for women to hide their bodies and their skin and their hair. Now, I can't really think of a good reason why that should be the case. I mean, we can all see that your body is perfectly natural. We're just an animal like any other animal. And, we can dress for modesty for various occasions and circumstances. But I don't think that should be such a great attachment to it along the lines of justifying people that abuse women or rape women or harm women or even insult women. There's no excuse for that type of behavior. And how a woman dresses or chooses to reveal parts of her body, that's really no justification for any of that type of behavior. So I'm not 100% sure where they get this idea and how relevant it is to Islam, but I'm pretty confident that we could dig up some specific examples of why they stick by it so much. But as you say, I'm totally against that type of behavior because I think it just shifts the blame and tries to take responsibility away from people committing bad acts and somehow put the victim in the frame of blame somehow. I mean, I really don't know where their morals allow this, but that's all they're really doing.
Yeah. And I mean, Stops did read some passages there that certainly related to how women should dress. It wasn't necessarily about the hijab, but it certainly made mention of dress, or a form of a dress code, let's say.
But what is funny is, now that you're mentioning this, because what Ansa said just now is so true, because there are two elements which need to be covered. This is the common ground: hair and neck. Those are the two things that need to be covered. And there are Muslims that will swear it says that women need to cover their hair, and it doesn't. There is no mention of covering your hair, and yet it's exactly as Ansa said. It's the hair which is the most seductive thing that a woman has, and it's not mentioned. It's quite funny.
Okay, but yet they do cover their hair, though. So presumably that comes from somewhere. But regardless,
yeah, it's the word khimar. It's the word khimar that they use in the Quran. The way that they khamar is the covering, okay, and khimar is the cloth which covers, like the tablecloth, like whatever you use to cover something. And the khimar,
right.
they are being sorry.
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know that I could be right. Anyway, this is the way that it works. And from this, they then deduce that it must be starting from the head. If it says to cover your boobs, they say, draw your khimar down from your head over your boobs. This is how they go. And they sort of construct this thing that you need to cover your hair and your neck all the way down to your boobs. This is the way it's interpreted. And this is where the 7 conditions that Marshall has put there, this is where they come from.
Okay, so at least we can probably all agree that there are amount of instruction, if you want to call it that, advice, guidelines, that women should cover a significant part of their bodies, and or can be interpreted to mean such. As you say, we could argue a little bit over the definitions, but I think it's clear that reading of this, if a woman came in a bikini and tried to invoke this and said, hey, I'm modestly dressed, I suspect that any Muslim accept that as modest dress. And as long as Muslims agree that, now we have somebody who's immodestly dressed, and we can compare that with whatever modestly dressed is, let's say from head to toe or whatever the case is, and we can make the comparison. And then we can now have the discussion as to should a woman, or how should a woman be dressed, and why should a woman be dressed in a certain way, which I think is what we've obviously been talking about. But I think it's kind of slightly off topic to go, okay, whether there's a hijab or not. Clearly women wear hijabs. Maybe somebody eventually, it came into the society, whatever the case is. You're quite right, Stops. It may not be directly in the Quran itself, but the society has now accepted that some kind of covering is either mandatory in some countries or highly recommended in others, whatever the case is. All I really want is to draw a distinction between, what we would consider a modestly dressed, or as you said, you might not think that. What generally Muslims would consider as modestly dressed, and what we would in the West consider as dressed or not dressed. We don't have a rule that says a woman needs to be moderately dressed. So that's the real sort of distinction here. Is Islam says it is, whatever that means, and let's say it's the majority of a woman's body, and maybe the hair or not, and we don't have that. And the case then is, well, which way do we go? Instead, I see one that's fully dressed and one that's in a bikini. Which way should I structure my society? Or why do you guys make the claim, why do you think that's good, or why do you think that's good? Kind of tried to talk about tonight.
Can I give you an approach? What I sometimes do is, if I have a problem like this and I'm trying to understand what is the point now in Islam, I first go to the Quranists. I go and look at the different groups, because there's 3 or 4 which are very vocal, outspoken, and they have a lot of definitions. And I go and see how they define, how they interpret the contents of the Quran. Because they will say, well, it doesn't say alcohol is forbidden, so why should we just stop drinking alcohol? This is only in the Hadith. Why should we go and cover our women if it doesn't say in the Quran? This is only in the Hadith. So what I go is I get the opinion of the Quranists, who know the Quran best, because it's their sole, let's say, source for everything. And Marshall is right. There is no no way that you can actually go and deduce that there are 5 prayers. And this is why Quranists don't. They use it, and this is widely accepted in Shias, they also do this, that they only pray 3 times, the ones that are mentioned in the Quran. And this is why we have these discrepancies. So a Quranist will go and give you a first impression of what happens. Then you go to the Wahhabis and you go and look at the opposite, and you look at the rulings that they come up with based on what Muhammad said in the Sunnah, because they are the ones who know best what Muhammad says. So I go to the best of the 2 worlds, the Wahhabis, if I want to take the Sunnah, and I go to the Quranists if I want to know what it says in the Quran. And this, I think, is a very good approach for everybody or anyone who wants to go a little bit deeper in this.
Yes, maybe if you've got a video, you can point us to one so that we don't have to go through a long thing if that's possible. If not,
just look for Free Minds. Free Minds are the best community for Quranists, for example.
Okay. Well, that's so. When you say Free Minds, is that like a forum or something?
Correct, and a web page and a repository of documents.
Okay, I could do that for more details, but I'm sure you'd agree that there's a difference, and that's all at this moment in time that's of interest to me. That there's a difference in the dress code, for want of a better word, between Islamic women and Western women. Difference, to whatever degree that is. Now we can talk about whether one side or the other is better, and if so, why. Okay. Any more thoughts? Obviously, it's getting on a little bit now, and we've been running for a little while. So any further thoughts, Ansar or Marshall, before we go? I mean, point of view, I still think that a woman should be able to wear anything.
I would just say any woman can wear whatever she wants. That's up to her. We also, as men, we have the right to look at them in any way we want to, and that's it.
But you don't have the right to treat them any way you want to.
Calling them names is not okay, so we have to respect them as well.
Yeah, so there's no problem then, is there?
Yeah, but okay,
we're
but
in agreement.
Yes, that's it.
That's fine. We're in agreement. I do think that men can learn to behave themselves a bit. I know we do have some urges per se, but we do need to respect women, as Betty very nicely said. You know, you can look in the shop window, but you don't go in and touch the merchandise without paying or getting permission. And I think that's the main point that we want to make here. And this absolutely insidious claim that women are asking for it if they dress in a particular way needs to be dealt with very harshly, in the sense of repudiated at the highest level in all forms of society, that women are somehow asking for it. And this doesn't necessarily just mean, you know, from a religious Islamic point of view. There's secular people, or people who claim to be secular, who also say this sort of nonsense. And so, you know, the women seem to be getting it from both sides in that respect. Now, do women have a responsibility to not get drunk and to behave themselves to some degree in public? Of course. But at no point, whether she's drunk or not, or whatever she's wearing or not, does that give a man any right to touch her without her express, rational, sober permission. Yes, there's obviously laws that deal with that sort of thing. But the actual dress code itself, I think, is the main thing that we are talking about, or lack of a dress code, if you like. Having made the point and having had the previous hangout. So anything more from anybody else to add?
Yes, and also I would like to add one more thing. Yeah, like as Top said before, if a woman dresses in like naked, a conclusion that she's a slut. We don't know. We can't.
Sorry, you say?
I said just because a woman dress naked, we can't say she's a slut or she's a whore or she's a prostitute.
Yes, I mean, it doesn't happen that much in our society, or yours for that matter, that she's just wandering around naked. But let's say they were on a nudist beach or whatever the case is. That does happen around here. I'm guessing somewhere. I haven't seen one around here. I knew of one in South Africa. But yes, you're right. It's because otherwise it needs to be both ways. It's never right, but it never works the other way, where women tell men, you know, you're a slut or you're a pig or whatever the case is because of the way you dress. But it doesn't have the impact, even if they did. But I think across the board, you don't need to have to comment on what somebody dresses like. You can have whatever thoughts in your brain, but that's ideally where you want it to stop. Now, somebody can't stop somebody saying that, but I guess the question is it morally correct to say that based on what she's wearing because it's her choice? Choose to turn around, walk away, whatever. The fact that you don't doesn't mean that she has to behave in a certain way because you can't control yourself. I think that's sort of one of our main points.
I agree. Yes, that's right.
Anything else stops or answer? Otherwise, I think we've had a reasonably long show here.
I don't know why, because Saracen was complaining that he was kicked out or something. I don't know why he left.
He said he was removed, or it said he's removed. Neither Stops nor myself kicked him out, so we don't do that.
Obviously not. I know you wouldn't.
So maybe it was a connection error. We've had that. It seems to be with people on mobiles. I'm on a laptop, so I don't get kicked. I did have a bit of problem.
Yeah, it's happened to me before as well.
Yeah. So you just suddenly drop, and then boop, somebody disappears. You're like, where did they go to? And all it says on our side here, Saracen left the group chat side here.
Yeah, I'm sure that once happened to me, and it said that you were removed. But I already know that you guys you pretty much never removed people.
No, I don't remember ever having removed somebody. Oh, I do if it's like a troll that comes on. That's why I don't want just for the future, Marshall, don't put the link in the chat. People can friend me on Facebook. Otherwise, you get trolls coming on and I keep having to kick them off.
Yeah, sure. I would. So, okay, here's a question. Here's a question that I want to know. Do you guys think that wearing hijab is a must for any Muslim women?
Stops.
Well, some people obviously think so in the Muslim world.
So I don't believe. If I had a sister, I would never impose that on her. I would never say that he.
That's just your liberal interpretation.
Yeah, I'm just saying. It's not.
Majority of the Muslim world disagree with you.
Yeah, I got.
And most Muslims I know pretty much do insist on it.
Yeah, no.
Over this stuff.
That's not. I wouldn't do it. I don't believe that's okay.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it that your interpretation of ignoring a lot of the Quran.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm trying to find a verse or hadith would it explicitly and categorically says that a woman, if she's not wearing a hijab, then that's a sin and she has to be punished for that.
Yeah, I think I've heard that before, that they say that there's not any punishment described or explained. But I mean, why is it even postulated, really?
I would say to anyone, to anyone who would say that it's a must, then he is not correct, because it's not a must. How can you? I mean, hijab. I mean, it's preferable to wear it, but it's not a must. You can't impose it on someone.
Yeah, the thing is, Ayub, it's all perfectly fine and well for someone, a liberal type person like yourself, to come along and show us what a beautiful version of Islam you envisage. However, the fact of the matter is, in the real world, a lot of Muslims, and probably most Muslims, and the countries and the laws which reflect this, they don't share that, my friend. And what you really need to understand is that that's the problem. We don't really have problem with people like you, apart from when you drop justifying pedophilia and stuff like that, and a lot of the misogyny that you inherently have. Apart from that, we don't have that much of a problem. It's these places where Islam is a dominant force in the world, and it clearly bullies the hell out of women and has all these weird punishments for the most ridiculous of crimes. And that's what we have a problem with. So what you need to understand is that you have to avoid and ignore huge chunks of the Qurans and Hadith to maintain your liberal standpoint. And we can see you doing that, but it doesn't help the situation, which is that we need you to challenge the very doctrine and inherent things in the religion.
I think I got you. Yeah, I wouldn't agree. I would never ever agree with that. If I had a wife, I would never say to her, "You have to wear hijab." Ever, never. That's up to her. If she wants to wear it, she can do it. But if she does not want, then it's.
What about your children, your daughters?
I don't have children, by the way.
Yeah, but I'm saying, you know,
I
what
would
would you?
never I would never impose it on them.
Cool.
How can
But
I mean, even if I were not a Muslim, I wouldn't do it. That's something I
yeah,
would
but
consider to
like
be
I said to you, yeah, that's fine. But you know, you have to stand very far away from the basics of what we know to be inherent in your religion to maintain that position. So you know, you're just ignoring the fact that the religion actually is inherently so misogynistic and barbaric.
Yeah, but I'm just you know, the thing is I'm trying to find a verse, an explicit, clear verse in the Quran where it says that a women, because that's not in the Quran. That's what people that's what people come up with. It's interpretation. It's the matter of how people understand it.
Look, it's fine for you to do this jumping and skipping around for specific verses and what they mean on any particular point. But what we are asking you to do, and I'm talking about over a number of weeks and months that we've talked to you regularly, what we are asking you to do is look at the fact that the whole range of things that we bring to you all paint a picture of Islam and historically, which has been borne out as facts, which are very, very vastly different from your cherry-picked, you know, token version of Islam. Now you have to understand. We need you to see what a big contrast there is between these two things. Because when you do this escapism game for any particular point, that's fine. But why don't you ever look at the big picture and realize that you always have to end up doing that, and you're just avoiding the basic big picture fact that we bring to you.
Hmm, I see what you're saying. I see.
Stops, you've been very quiet. Anything else to add on your side? No, I think Stops
Shit,
is
am I
away.
talking?
I think he fell to sleep.
Oh, there you are. He's there.
No, I'm trying to talk, and because I
There you go.
switched it to charge, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I
You're
think
back on now.
this is the first time that we're gonna end up leaving with an agreement. We all agree upon one thing.
Do we?
Obviously,
Let's change it.
yes.
We need to change this. This is not possible.
We
No,
do
no, you're right.
agree.
Okay, great. We all agree that you can't do this. We all agree that it's being done anyway, and I think we all agree that this is something that needs to stop in the 21st century, and that is the end of the story. The question is how. This we don't know.
That's
Yes,
I
well,
think that's the
in principle, we
$1 million
could say
question.
well, in principle, we can say how. It's are people open to have that, and that is education, educating
Okay,
men in
here's
particular,
one
but women as well.
Okay, here's the one thing. Here I really like this question. I find it quite interesting. Do you think that a woman, if she dresses naked and she is still a Muslim, do you think God, or I would say Islam, do you think that Islam would condemn her?
Yes.
Oh, yes. So
When you say dresses
not,
naked, you probably mean it's
Yeah.
undressed or
Okay. Yeah.
naked. Yeah.
I mean half naked, yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
do you but she's still a Muslim though, yeah?
Of course.
Could be, yeah.
But yeah, I think I agree with you.
Depends on the country and the place and whatever it is, isn't it? But even if somebody, even if a woman walked around half naked here, she'd get arrested. But even here, we're sort of, in a sense, in the UK, suffering from, you know, of religious, you know, that's the Christianity is the foundation here in the UK as well,
And Queen Victoria.
and Queen Victoria as well. You know, so all this prim and properness, which is not our natural way, which you can see from young children and other tribes that haven't been touched by this stuff. This isn't our natural way. Obviously, we cover up when we're cold, but we have this thing instilled in us that, hey, it's somehow wrong to be naked in public or around other people other than your family.
Yeah. And look, I was working for a company where the two headquarters were in Vienna and in Nice. So in other words, I was in the south of France and it was in Vienna, and both are boasting nudist beaches like left, right, and center. So I used to enjoy that, and I come on, I enjoy looking at a naked female body as much as any guy. So absolutely. So I enjoyed Nice and Vienna very much so. And they have nudist beaches, but then I also learned how to behave yourself and how to look a girl in the eye and not at the nipples.
Yeah, and if you are looking from a distance and you're not looking at her in the eye, you can admire it. you know, or and listen, you can think whatever you want to think. Nobody's going to stop you. Nobody's going to get in your head anyway. It's just, you know, your behavior stops before you put hands on her.
Exactly.
Now, if you're going to say something, I think we can say that potentially it's immoral. Depends what you say, and particularly in Betty's case, where he's touching her. I mean, if I was sitting there and I saw that,
Slip the guy.
I've seen other cases every now and again. It comes up on Facebook, and we're not talking about Muslim here, so this has nothing to do with Islam necessarily. But other men have done this as well, like British men or other men. They get on a train, especially with a young woman that they've somehow noticed is not very firm with them, and they sit down and it's almost like passengers don't know, and the woman is not going to speak out and say something. She's afraid of being shown up in public. Do a bit of a groping thing. There was a thing on Facebook I had a few years back, and they sent a photo around. You know, you could say maybe it's not true or whatever the case is, but assuming it's true, I wouldn't put it past some men that they'll do that sort of thing.
Well,
so
you
it's
get
not
this
just
in Japan a lot.
in Japan.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not necessarily only religion, but what I do think religion plays a big part in is the mindset that being clothed is the way to be, whereas of course being naked, if there was, you know, in summer or whatever the case is our natural state. So we put on clothes which we used to cover ourselves, to protect ourselves originally from the environment, and then along came books that said no, it's not just for the environment. You've got to behave in a certain way because, you know, the entity in the sky or outside of our universe that we can't detect has given certain commands.
They
and that, of
pretend
course,
it's normative.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then, of course, you get the reverse, which is, oh well, you know, how do you atheists, non-believers, where does your morals come from? And again, we have gone into that. We can go into that again, and I think we've got I certainly have a fairly coherent view. I'm sure most atheists that have thought about it have got a view that works fairly well, and it doesn't rely on ancient books or mythical, you know, supernatural creatures to do that. It relies on people around us and how we want to be treated in our family and other things. And there's many things that can go into it. But going back to the last point before we finish off, the solution for me is education, teaching men that want to learn, or almost like it could be that immigrants coming in from certain countries.
Apart from education,
take a test.
Okay, apart from education, do you think leaving the religion, which like restricts us, do you think that could be a solution to?
Again?
Yes.
Do you think that, like you said, that religion like instructs us to live in a certain ways? Do you think leaving religion, too?
Of course.
Yeah, to a lot of problems.
Yes, I mean,
everybody who leaves the religion says it's a liberating experience, because now you can decide for yourself. You can enjoy whatever it is that you're doing because you decide that you are doing it, not because it's under pressure or because you're doing it for a reward. It is you doing it only for yourself. If I help somebody who is needy, who is homeless or whatever, I'm doing it because I'm doing it, not because I'm getting 2,000 points from my God. Or I'm not raping women, not because I'm afraid that my God is going to punish me, but I think that raping women is wrong. And this is my decision. So it's my life that I am taking into my own hands and living it according to my standards, which I have been taught are correct, and I am the one who's getting the feedback if I'm wrong.
So you don't need a God to take your morality from, right?
Absolutely not. Religion and gods poison everything. Come on, it's terrible. It's the worst thing that you can do because it's a cop-out. You're saying I'm behaving myself because the God is telling me to, not because I want to. If you do something wrong, you're saying, oh shit, now I'm going to be in deep shit because my God is going to punish me for it. How stupid is that?
I think that's, I would say makes perfect sense to me too. I mean,
and it's not God's morality. It's just a different version of a different person's morality. All the religions were invented by men.
Yeah.
For thousands of years, if there was a perfect morality, every philosopher would know about it. You know, we've got different moral systems, but the end goal normally for those that are serious about this is how can we, in some sense, uplift the well-being of conscious creatures on this planet. Now, they may not use those words necessarily, and there may be different ways of approaching it, but ultimately, if you ask every human on the planet that is rational, that can understand and actually think, and okay, that maybe excludes a minority or maybe not of the world's population, then they would agree that, and even theists agree, well-being is ultimately what morality is about. They just think that it's not necessarily in this world, it's in another world, or after this world. But we all agree that well-being is the sense. It's just that, and in fact, I think that non-believing morality is better, because we have a system that can help us, because not everything is in the Quran. So what about suffering of animals? What about stem cell research? Things that the Quran would never have thought of or come up with. How do we determine whether those are right and wrong? Because we can't refer to the Quran. So what does a theist now have to do? They now have to start to think for themselves. What basis do they have? They've got nothing in the Quran that says anything. So now they have to use a secular morality.
Yes,
Many
I think
of us
you
have
raise
done
a good
for
point.
thousands of years.
Yes.
And Matt Delahanty has covered this. Obviously, Sam Harris has covered this. Many other people that have covered this. Jonathan Haidt and Jonathan Rolls with the original
Professor
position.
Law.
There we go. You could name hundreds and hundreds of secular people that have done this, and we still talk about it, and there's still problems. So if the smartest humans for the last 2,000 years haven't got a perfect system, what makes us think that a 1,500-year-old book does when we read it and we notice that's not the case? So, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go back to my gumball machine. It's been a pleasure chatting, talking. It's been an interesting topic. We're not going to get any kind of consensus, I think, across the board, but I think we've raised a couple of issues which might make other people think.
Absolutely. So thank you so much to Stops, for Marshall, to Answer, to Saracen, who came in for a short while, to all of our viewers and people in the chat.
We all agree, right?
And we'll be back on Friday for sure. Who knows? We might sneak something in tomorrow. You never know. We might not if we're bored. So, guys, thank you so much. See you.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
On Friday.
Okay.